The National Art Gallery in New York was supposed to be peaceful. Suddenly, a sharp piercing shriek shattered the entire hall. How could you plagiarize my artwork, Natalie? Victoria, the younger Houston daughter, gripped a red bucket tightly. A look of pure fabricated heartbreak was plastered across her face, and humiliated, she clutched her clothes as tears of frustration welled up, yet not a single person in the crowd showed her any sympathy. Accusations and harsh mockery began to flood the room like a wave. How shameless, an elite girl said, rolling her eyes in disgust. Natalie wandered the streets for over a decade before coming back. Now, she's stealing from her own sister at a national competition. I heard the family tried to fake her profile as a rising prodigy. Turns out she is just a total joke compared to brilliant Victoria. A young man nearby chimed in, his voice dripping with deep scorn. She is clearly just burning with pure jealousy toward Victoria. A country bumpkin, without a shred of proper art education, could never paint anything decent without copying someone else. Did we bring you back just to destroy our 100-year legacy in front of every single high society name in Manhattan? Look at you now, covered in filth like an uncultured savage. You are a permanent stain on the entire Houston bloodline. Then Mr. Houston flew into a rage and lunged forward. He raised his right hand, and in front of the entire crowd, delivered a brutal ringing slap right across Natalie's face. The violent force sent her crashing heavily onto the hard floor. The sound echoed loudly across the open gallery space while live broadcast cameras zoomed in on her bleeding lip, streaming her total humiliation to millions across the country. He pointed right at her face, roaring at the top of his lungs, "Shut your mouth. Victoria is the golden prodigy of this family. She is the future of our name, while you are absolutely nothing, an uneducated brat who dares to pull such a criminal stunt. From this day on, get out of the Houston house for good. I won't let a fraud remain on my legal papers for 1 second. You won't get a single penny of the Houston fortune. Get out." Victoria grabbed her father's arm, acting like a victimized angel. "Dad, please don't hit her. She has just been jealous of me. She spent her childhood in poverty and wanted your love so badly. Sister, if you just confess to the media that this is my design, I will beg Dad to let you stay with us in the mansion. Even working as a kitchen maid is better than starving outside." Brandon glared down at his biological sister with pure revulsion. "What an uneducated, completely trashy piece of garbage," he spat. "Living like a dog outside made you lose all human decency. If Victoria weren't so kind, you'd be in a police cell by now. Stop embarrassing us and get out. Your face makes me sick." The Houston family stormed off, leaving her alone on the floor, looking at her shredded canvas, tears mixed with the thick paint. Her parents rejected her, her brother watched the show coldly, and her manipulative sister had just stolen her entire life away. The camera flashes kept blinking like cold sharp blades, stabbing right into her broken, bleeding, and exhausted heart. Driven to total despair, Natalie wandered up to the rooftop. Staring down into the massive dark abyss of the New York streets, she closed her eyes in complete and utter exhaustion. "Why doesn't my own family believe me? I am your blood. I woke up at dawn just to learn your stupid rules to fit in. I hid in the damp cellar just to paint my soul onto paper. Yet you only see Victoria, who shares none of your DNA. What is the point of living? I wish I never came back to this hell." With a sudden gust of wind, Natalie threw herself off the edge. "Sister, you paint so well. Thanks to your amazing concept, I managed to take the championship trophy today. Ha ha ha." That familiar nauseatingly sweet laugh echoed in her ears. Natalie gasped for air, her eyes snapping wide open in shock. She panted heavily in pure terror, covering her mouth instinctively, but then looked down at her clothes with trembling, shaking hands. There was no sticky paint, no ruined canvas anywhere on her. The smell of turpentine and oil filled the quiet gallery space. Contestants around her were simply setting up their tools. Everything was frozen at the moment before the timer started. I traveled back in time." Natalie clenched her fists hard. A burning flame of vengeance instantly ignited inside her eyes. She had returned to the exact day her entire destiny shifted, right back to the scene where she was framed and humiliated. This time, no one would touch a single thing that belonged to her. Every single demon who broke her would pay 100 times over. The past was repeating itself as Victoria, dressed in black, placed a hand on her shoulder with a fake sweet smile. "Sister, what is wrong with you? Why are you staying so quiet? Is it because it is your first time in such a big competition? If your hands are shaking too much to hold the brush properly, just tell me, I can let you borrow one of my luxury spares. Get your hands off me, Victoria." Natalie's eyes turned to ice. She twisted her shoulder sharply, slapping Victoria's hand away. The pure chilling aura radiating from her body in that second made the arrogant Victoria shudder, stepping back in sudden fear. Mrs. Houston caught the movement and her face instantly darkened. Her high heels clicked loudly on the floor as she marched over. "What do you think you were doing, Natalie? Where are your manners? She is your biological sister. Stop showing your country attitude. You look like a low-class street brat acting up in public. Victoria immediately wrapped her arms around her mother's sleeve. Mom, don't be mad at her, she pleaded, acting all sweet. She just got back from the country and doesn't know our rules. She probably found my words offensive, but I don't mind. As long as sister can finish the race and bring us honor, I can take any abuse she throws at me. Right, sister? In her past life, Natalie was fooled by this exact fake mask, giving up ground until she was completely ruined and dead. But in this life, she refused to play along with the circus. Natalie stood up slowly, a freezing smile touching her lips as she dropped 3 calm words: I withdraw. What? The fake smile on Victoria's face instantly froze solid. Thinking she misheard, she lunged forward to grab Natalie's arm. You are withdrawing from the finals. You can't do that, sister. You spent months preparing for this big gallery event. The board and the media are watching. The Houston name is at stake. Mrs. Houston and Brandon rushed over, blocking her path. Brandon glared at her with intense, burning impatience. Natalie, what kind of childish drama are you pulling now? This slot is a rare luxury that thousands dream of getting. Your selfishness needs to have a limit, you low-life brat. Do you want the papers to call you a coward who ran away? Natalie noticed the hidden panic flash deep in Victoria's eyes, and the mocking smirk on her own face grew even sharper. The more desperate Victoria looked, the more her fear leaked. She leaned in close, whispering directly into Victoria's ear, cutting through her composure with a slow, deliberate tone. Why are you sweating so much, Victoria? You hate my guts. Why are you begging me to stay and compete in this hall today? Is it because without me serving as your personal generator, your brainless head can't paint anything worth a prize? How are you going to use your secret vision to copy my work if my canvas stays completely blank for the next 3 hours? Victoria's face turned completely pale, and she dodged her gaze. She couldn't paint to save her life. Her past win was a fraud, relying entirely on her ability to steal Natalie's work. She had a chemical canvas ready with a hidden black sketch, but without Natalie's layout to match the dynamic prompt, she would be exposed as an absolute fraud on live television. Desperate, Victoria dropped her pride and gripped Natalie's hand. Stop being difficult, she whispered, practically begging. If you want the trophy so badly, I'll let you have it. Okay, I can give you all my media connections after the show. There is really no need to say such nasty things to me. Brandon watched the exchange, his heart aching for Victoria. His disgust for Natalie reached a whole new level of anger. Why waste your breath on her, Victoria? She is a country girl. She knows nothing about fine art. Let her leave like a coward. She is just lowering the high class of our family by staying. Natalie looked at her toxic family, feeling utterly sickened. She glanced at the floor and spoke with total indifference. I can stay, but look at how filthy the floor is around here. It's completely ruining my artistic mood to look at it. Why don't you take a mop and clean this entire spot up first? Make sure there isn't a single speck of dust near my easel. Natalie, don't you dare push your luck, Mrs. Houston roared. Your sister's hands are meant for luxury brushes, not mops. She is meant to sign autographs at global exhibitions, you monster. How dare you order her to clean the floor like a servant? Natalie clapped her hands together lightly, turning to walk away. Fine by me, then I am officially out. I am leaving right now. Since I am just a useless piece of trash in your eyes anyway, I shouldn't waste the clean air in this luxury gallery. No. Sister, wait, don't go. Victoria gritted her teeth hard. To keep her cheating scheme alive, she had to swallow the insult. She forced a twisted smile that looked worse than crying. Fine, I'll mop it. I'll clean it until you are happy. Watching Victoria struggle awkwardly with a bucket and a mop, the surrounding high society guests exchanged weird looks. Natalie sat back down elegantly, adding one more icy command. While you are at it, go fetch me a fresh bucket of water. Make sure it is the filtered water from the VIP lounge downstairs. If there is a single floating speck in it, I won't use it. Victoria gripped the red bucket so hard her nails dug into her skin. She screamed in her head, just you wait, Natalie. The moment this ends, I'll expose you as a dirty thief. I will make sure you get banned from the entire global industry. I will make sure you can never hold your head up again. Right then, the head judge stood up at the front podium. Holding up 2 sample canvases, he announced to the room, all right contestants, the final round officially begins. The theme for this national competition is figure and landscape. You have exactly 3 hours to complete your masterpiece. He checked his luxury watch, his expression turning serious. The countdown starts now. We expect deep, meaningful art. The association president is personally watching the stream today, and there might be a hidden prompt, so give it your all. Hearing the words, hidden prompt, the Houstons panicked. It meant standard templates and pre-made drafts would fail. Victoria rushed to her station, glancing at Natalie's canvas, but as the minutes ticked by, she started losing her mind. Natalie was sitting there with her eyes closed, refusing to sketch. 30 minutes passed, then an entire hour flew right by. Aside from her name written in bold letters, her canvas was blank. Brandon mocked her from the back, laughing with the crowd. See, I told you she has zero talent, just a name in an hour. She is posing like an expert, but she is completely empty inside. She really is a pathetic, useless piece of trash for our name. Mrs. Houston let out a cold snort, her face full of contempt. We should have never allowed her to enter this massive event. She is throwing away all our social credit in front of the elites. If she hands in a blank paper, I will personally ruin her life. Victoria couldn't sit still anymore. If Natalie didn't paint, how was she supposed to copy the lines and steal the win? With half the time gone, she walked over, faking sweet care. Sister, why haven't you started yet? You are running out of time. Do you want me to help mix your colors? What do you need? Natalie tilted her head, looking at her with a knowing smile. Skin tone, she replied flatly. On it, Victoria quickly began working on her palette, mixing expensive pigments to look professional for the cameras, handing over a brush covered in fresh paint a moment later. Natalie took it, tapped the edge of the canvas and frowned. She tossed the expensive brush aside onto the floor with disgust, leaving a messy smudge on the polished hardwood under them. Wrong, this is too pale. Only trash uses such a ghostly white. You are trying to hide your empty, corrupt soul with bright paint. Go back to the station and mix it again properly. Victoria took a deep breath, forcing her rage back down. No problem, sister. I'll fix it for you right away. She mixed another batch, handing it over with trembling hands. Natalie didn't even look at it, letting out a cold sneer. Useless, this is way too light. Do you even have a brain? You can't even mix a basic skin tone correctly, Victoria. Did your family buy all your previous awards with dirty cash? Natalie, that is enough. Victoria finally snapped, hissing, her face twisted into a mask of pure, unbridled rage. You can't paint a single thing, so you are just torturing me. If you want to fail, do it alone and stop wasting my time. Natalie raised an eyebrow, intentionally raising her voice so every single person and judge in the gallery could hear her. What is the rush, Victoria? This is called brainstorming. I want a shade of vibrant black to reflect human corruption. If you can't mix it, go back to your desk and leave me alone. Brandon and Mrs. Houston crossed their arms, scowling deeply. Natalie has been sitting there for 2 hours doing nothing, the mother whispered coldly to the surrounding guests. Victoria is trying to help her, and she calls her stupid. That arrogant attitude is completely worthless in the art world. Brandon laughed. She knows she is a fraud, and she is stalling. She is going to blame the tools when she fails at the buzzer. Victoria is the saint for putting up with her trashy attitude. While the crowd praised Victoria, the clock reached the end. The head judge announced, only 30 minutes remaining. Please finish up your work and prepare to submit your pieces. Canvas. With that, Natalie grabbed a brush and flew across the canvas. As her hand blurred like a shooting star, Victoria's eyes lit up. She locked her gaze onto Natalie's board, using her vision to perfectly copy every stroke and color onto her own canvas. To steal the credit, Victoria accelerated her speed at the end, finishing the final lines before Natalie could even lift her brush. Judge, I am completely finished. I am submitting my work. 5 minutes before the buzzer, Victoria marched up to the stage, proudly presenting her stolen masterpiece to the panel. The head judge took the canvas, and his jaw dropped instantly. His hands shook as he held the paper, his eyes wide with shock. A miracle. This is an absolute masterpiece of fine art. In my 30 years, I have never seen such a brilliant piece. The balance of shadow and light is flawless, absolutely stunning. Hearing the praise, Mrs. Houston's face filled with pride. Of course, she bragged, looking down her nose at Natalie. Our Victoria studied under legends since she was a little girl. She isn't like some trashy country bumpkin with no manners. Some people can sit here for 3 hours and still look cheap. Brandon clapped wildly. You did it. Sis, the trophy is yours. You are the youngest master in New York. We are so proud. Victoria stood under the spotlight, soaking in the applause. She turned a mocking, arrogant glare toward her sister. I've submitted my piece, Natalie. Where is your canvas? Don't tell me you don't even have the courage to hand it in. You spent 3 hours stalling just to copy my concepts. Too bad you are slow. Now the whole world knows I am the original. Exactly. The two layouts are identical. The crowd roared. Natalie clearly stole everything from her younger sister. Faced with the public execution, Natalie calmly set her brush down. She stood up slowly, her eyes as calm as a dead ocean. She looked at Victoria, asking flatly, I copied you. Sure, the proof is right there. Stop lying. Brandon screamed. The live stream shows you were staring at her tools the whole time. Mr. Houston lost his temper, stomping right up to Natalie, turning her back on him to address the panel of judges. Sir, I told you before, I wasn't finished, but now I am. Victoria mocked her. Not finished. There are 2 minutes left. You can't paint a masterpiece in seconds. Natalie, I don't need minutes. A single second is more than enough. Before the shocked crowd, Natalie didn't pick up a brush. Instead, she bent down and lifted the bucket of water that Victoria had fetched for her from the VIP area. With a fierce glare, she splashed the entire bucket of water straight onto Victoria's masterpiece, hanging on the display. Are you insane? Victoria shrieked, jumping back. The Houston family erupted in pure fury. Brandon charged up. You ruined her art. You crazy bitch, he screamed red-faced. Call security. Throw this insane woman into an asylum now. Mrs. Houston shrieked, you uneducated monster. Trash, you act like a street thug because you have no talent. No one can save you today. You are officially officially disowned. But Natalie stood perfectly still, fixing her wet sleeve, pointing a single finger toward the dripping wet canvas. "Why are you screaming? Look at the painting first." The crowd looked at the display, and the room went dead silent. The clean water washed away the top layers of brilliant colors. The delicate lines melted off the paper like cheap mud, revealing a hideous messy scribble of low-grade black paint. The paper was a disaster, looking worse than a toddler's doodle, releasing a strong toxic chemical smell across the stage. How is this possible?" The head judge gasped. Natalie crossed her arms, looking at a pale, shaking Victoria. "Is this your miracle piece, Victoria? Let me explain it. In the past life, you stole my work and used a special paper with a chemical coating to submit early and frame me as a thief. This time I left my canvas blank until the final minutes. Without my template, you panicked and used your cheat paper, hoping your pre-made black sketch would pass the prompt. You thought you won, but you just walked into your own grave. The moment pure water hits that fake coating, it melts away." Victoria's legs shook, her mind short-circuiting in terror. She never imagined Natalie knew her entire cheating routine. "You are lying. You added chemicals to that bucket to ruin me. This is the filtered water you fetched with your own hands. The gallery cameras tracked your entire walk to the lounge. If it is real art, why did it wash away under pure water?" Natalie's voice echoed through the massive quiet hall. During the chaos, the head judge's phone rang loudly. He answered with a shaking voice. "President." "Yes, sir." As he listened, his face turned from shock to intense respect. He lowered the phone, announcing a truth that shook the room. "The president of the National Art Association watched everything. He states the hidden prompt was meant to test true genius, evaluating who possesses the vision to command the canvas. And this piece," he pointed to Natalie's sharp, elegant board. "Natalie's work perfectly captures the depth of the prompt. The president is coming to name her his personal apprentice and the future leader of the entire global association." Hearing this, Mrs. Houston and Brandon froze on the spot, their faces twisting into hilarious expressions of shock. Natalie held her head high under the bright golden sun, looking down at the toxic family who treated her like trash, her heart filled with a deep sense of absolute victory. The debts of the past were officially settled today. Pieces. But nobody expected the family on the sofa to start throwing a fit. The mother of the Houston family wears a black and gold gown. Next to her is Victoria, a heavily made-up, pampered fake heiress in a gold-patterned dress, spitting out manipulative lies. She points a finger at the calm girl across the room, who steps up to the podium, looking like an absolute goddess in a flawless white gown. Below the stage, the Houston mother, Brandon and Victoria swirl wine, staring at Natalie with deep disgust and pure contempt. To shift blame, "Natalie set me up at the gala. I'll move to the basement tomorrow just to make her happy, as long as she forgives me. She expects her father to feel sorry for her after this act, but she has no idea. An affair, and an absolute ruin for the villains, and a perfect win for justice. The once glamorous fake heiress and the evil mother are cast out, becoming the biggest laughingstock of high society overnight. And the ultimate powerhouse, Natalie stands to the absolute peak." Watching the broadcast on television, the father and Brandon gasped in shock. They thought she was just a talented girl, never imagining she would become the leader of the entire fine arts industry. Brandon cheers wildly, screaming at the screen, "My sister is a legend. She's bringing so much glory to our name." The father grins from ear to ear, calling it a miracle for their bloodline. These two greedy put into the toxic Houston mansion again, willingly giving up their wealth and the title of a billionaire. It was pouring rain on a deserted Texas country road as a frail little girl struggled through the thick mud. Her name was Angela, a helpless orphan who had to go barefoot, carrying a heavy basket taller than herself just to forage for wild greens by the freezing riverbank to survive. Just a moment ago, the local boys had surrounded her, clapping and laughing as one of them brutally kicked her into the dirt. Watching them run away, young Angela wanted to cry, but she just quietly knelt in the mud, holding back her tears, carefully picking up the dirty greens and putting them back into her basket. She knew crying wouldn't solve anything because she only had herself to rely on, yet life seemed determined to never give this poor child a break. When Angela finally made it back to the yard of her adoptive aunt, Susan, carrying that heavy basket, what awaited her wasn't a warm bowl of leftovers, but a cold wooden stick pointed straight at her face. "You little brat, how dare you steal and eat our chicken?" Susan roared, her face twisted with rage, her sharp voice piercing Angela's ears. Tears of injustice welled up, and Angela tried desperately to defend herself, but her aunt wouldn't listen. Susan's fury only intensified, unable to tolerate a stray child talking back. She swung the heavy stick, beating Angela mercilessly over her head and body. "How dare you lie to me? You jinxed your grandfather to death, and now you bring bad luck to this house." 6 years ago, it was the family grandfather who had rescued Angela from the roadside. After he passed away, Susan vented all her bitterness and life's frustrations onto this helpless orphan. A crowd of neighbors gathered outside the yard to watch the cruelty, yet not a single soul stood up to speak for her. Instead, those cold-hearted neighbors folded their arms and jeered, agreeing with Susan that Angela was just a freeloading nuisance who deserved the beating. When Susan grew tired, she slammed the stick onto the ground, warning Angela that she would beat her to death if she ever talked back again, before spitting on the ground and ordering her to crawl back to her shed. Left alone, Angela clutched her bruised body as an overwhelming wave of grief washed over her, and she wept bitterly toward the empty woods. "Daddy, Mommy, where are you?" But the only response was the icy wind howling through the trees. Exhausted, Angela numbly stood up and dragged her bruised body back toward the house. However, as she reached the front door, she accidentally overheard Susan speaking in a low conspiratorial whisper on the phone with a human trafficker. "The girl is 6 now, and she is not bad looking. You can easily get $100,000 for her." Susan calculated greedily. "That is perfect. Bring your people over right away to take her." Outside the door, Angela felt as if she had been struck by lightning, freezing completely in place. Fear choked her like an invisible hand. $100,000 meant she was being sold into a living hell, and she knew she couldn't just sit there and wait for doom. She had to run. Under the torrential rain, Angela clutched her only possession, a battered old basket, and ran aimlessly down the flooded country road. The rain beat mercilessly against her pale face, blurring her vision. Just then a happy family of 3 walked past her. A little girl in a beautiful coat huddled under an umbrella, teasing her parents for some ice cream, and her father lovingly agreed. Standing in the storm and shivering, Angela watched them, and her heart broke with envy. Suddenly, a sleek black luxury sedan sped down the road, splashing water into the air. Inside the car were the prominent city billionaires, Austin and his wife, Madeline. Madeline was still consumed by the profound grief of losing their daughter years ago, while Austin focused on the road, anxiously trying to comfort his heartbroken wife. As the car sped past Angela, Madeline happened to glance out the window. Through the blurred glass and the sheets of heavy rain, she caught sight of the little girl shivering in the storm, and her heart stopped. In that split second, she felt as if she were looking at her long-lost daughter. "Lily, Lily, that is my Lily. Stop the car, Austin, stop the car right now. I saw our Lily." Austin was startled and desperately tried to soothe his hysterical wife. "Madeline, please calm down. Lily is gone." But Madeline had completely lost her mind, her thoughts entirely consumed by her daughter. In a state of utter frenzy, she recklessly reached out and grabbed the steering wheel from Austin's hands. "I need to get out. Let me go. That really was my Lily." The speeding luxury car instantly lost control in the struggle. The vehicle veered violently across the road, narrowly missing a massive oncoming truck before crashing heavily into a massive tree by the roadside with a deafening screech of brakes. Billowing black smoke and bright sparks began to pour frantically from beneath the crumpled hood. When Angela saw the smoking wreckage, her innate kindness made her forget her own safety. Dropping her basket, she dashed through the pouring rain straight toward the crash scene without a single second of hesitation. Inside the car, Austin and Madeline were covered in blood, slumped over the deflated airbags, completely unconscious. With thick smoke rising from the engine, Angela used every ounce of her strength, gripping the deformed door handle with her small calloused hands until she managed to force it open. "Mr. Ma'am, please wake up, wake up." Angela crawled inside, shaking them with all her might, crying and tapping their faces to bring them around. Through her desperate, heartbreaking cries, the badly injured Austin and Madeline finally opened their eyes. However, the severe trauma to their heads had caused profound amnesia, leaving them completely disoriented. "Where am I? Who am I? And who are you?" Looking at the wealthy couple who couldn't even remember their own names, the young but street-smart Angela froze. She remembered her aunt's cruel words on the phone about selling her, and the endless abuse she had suffered in that wretched place. If she pretended they were her parents, would she finally stop being beaten? Would she finally have a real home? With that thought, she choked back her tears and whispered, "Daddy, Mommy." Deep in Austin's subconscious, he felt a profound protective love for his daughter. Looking at this sweet, clean-eyed little girl, he believed her. They weaky stepped out of the wreckage, and letting Angela hold their hands, they walked step by step into the hostile environment of the village. When they arrived at the dilapidated shack where Angela lived, Austin felt a deep pang of guilt, wondering what kind of hardships he must have faced to let his little girl live in such poverty. Tears in his eyes, he gently stroked Angela's head and blamed himself. "Angela, it is Daddy's fault. Before I lost my memory, I failed to provide a safe home for you and let you suffer like this." Sitting nearby, Madeline looked around the bleak room and began to doubt Austin, grumbling with frustration. "I bet you weren't a good man before you lost your memory. You were probably a gambler or a deadbeat dad, or we wouldn't be living like this." Facing his wife's complaints, the amnesiac Austin could only smile awkwardly. Wanting to prove he was a responsible father, he began searching the room for anything valuable. When his hands brushed against an exquisite diamond-encrusted luxury watch hidden in their tattered belongings, all 3 of them froze in shock. Madeline took the gold watch, examining it closely, her suspicion growing deeper. "You actually have something like this. Just who were you?" Seeing the tension, Angela quickly reached out and pulled Madeline's sleeve, comforting her sweetly. "Mommy, please don't fight. It is enough that we are all safe and together now." Looking at their sensible and sweet daughter, the doubts in Madeline and Austin's hearts instantly vanished, replaced by overwhelming warmth. Madeline tenderly pulled Angela into her arms. "All right, sweetheart, I'll listen to you, Daddy, and I will go to town and find out who we are." The couple changed into simple worn-out clothes and prepared to head to the local town. Before they left, Angela stood at the doorway, waving affectionately at their receding figures. "Daddy, Mommy, please be careful on the road." Austin turned back with a loving smile and shouted, "Don't worry, Angela. We will be right back." Watching her parents walk away, Angela stood in the empty yard, her face blooming with a bright smile, finally feeling the true warmth of having a family. Wanting to prepare a wonderful dinner for her hardworking parents, Angela took her small basket and happily headed up the mountain alone. The forest air after the rain was crisp and fresh, and she hummed a cheerful tune along the way. Soon, she discovered a patch of plump wild mushrooms and carefully gathered them. Holding the basket, she thought happily to herself that when her parents returned from selling the watch and saw these giant mushrooms, they would definitely praise her. With that joyful thought, she quickened her pace and headed back down the mountain. However, Angela had no idea that a terrible danger was silently closing in on her. Down by the river near the village entrance, her Aunt Susan and her lazy deadbeat Uncle Kevin were leading a notorious local trafficker named Brad to search for her. "Brad, I swear this girl is a premium find. She is a bit thin, but her features are absolutely beautiful," Kevin bragged. "As long as the quality is good, I don't care about the price," Brad replied coldly. Just then, Susan's spoiled son came running down the trail, crying loudly, "Mom, that brat Angela bullied me on the mountain." Susan's temper flared instantly upon hearing her precious son had been crossed. She put her hands on her hips and cursed loudly in the direction the boy pointed. "How dare she? Let's go catch her." Under Susan's guidance, Brad and his physically imposing thuggish henchmen charged aggressively toward the mountain path to corner Angela. The poor girl, carrying her basket of mushrooms, reached the foot of the hill only to run straight into this menacing group. Seeing her aunt's furious face and Kevin's wicked smirk alongside several hostile strangers, Angela's heart dropped and she instantly turned to run back up the mountain. But a young child was no match for grown men. Kevin lunged forward, grabbing Angela by the collar like a helpless bird and throwing her violently to the ground. The mushrooms scattered everywhere and Angela gasped from the sharp pain. Brad walked over, looking down at Angela with cold, greedy eyes before smiling with satisfaction. "Not bad, she really is a pretty thing. Susan, this deal is done." Kevin reached out with his dirty hands, grabbing Angela's arms to force her into the back of their unmarked van. "Let me go, you bad people, let me go." Angela struggled frantically, biting Kevin's wrist as hard as she could. "Ah, you little bitch, how dare you bite me?" Kevin screamed in pain, swinging his hand and delivering a brutal slap across Angela's face. Her small body was knocked flat into the mud, blood immediately trickling from the corner of her mouth. At that exact critical moment, Austin and Madeline, who had sensed something was wrong in town and rushed back without even selling the watch, arrived at the scene completely out of breath. Seeing their daughter lying on the ground covered in blood and being treated so brutally, Madeline's eyes instantly turned crimson with rage. Her maternal instinct erupted completely. She threw herself over Angela to shield her, screaming hysterically at Kevin and Susan, "What do you think you are doing? How dare you lay a hand on my daughter in broad daylight?" Austin also charged forward with fury, firmly shielding his wife and daughter, his eyes flashing with the terrifying authority that caused the thugs to hesitate. Kevin sneered, pointing a finger at them. "Your daughter, she is an orphan we picked up. Who do you think you are to interfere in our family business?" Madeline held the shivering Angela tightly in her arms, her tears flowing uncontrollably as she fired back angrily. "Nonsense, Angela is our daughter. You heartless monsters will burn in hell." Standing aside, the human trafficker Brad watched the confrontation, and a repulsive greedy gleam flashed in his eyes as he looked at Madeline. "Kevin, I've changed my mind. I am taking the little girl, and I am taking this woman too. I'll give you an extra $20,000 to help me secure her." Susan and Kevin's eyes lit up with greed. "You got it, boss. She is clearly not from around here anyway. No one will ever know." At Kevin's command, Brad's heavily built thugs lunged like wolves toward Austin and Madeline. Although Austin and Madeline fought desperately, they were unarmed ordinary people up against ruthless criminals who live by violence. Very quickly, Austin and Madeline were violently pinned down into the mud by the heavy thugs, their clothes torn and their faces bruised. "Madeline, Madeline," Austin roared in agony, trying frantically to break free. Kevin walked over and slammed his heavy boot onto Austin's back. "Shut up, you loser, you can't even protect yourself." Watching her parents being brutally beaten to protect her, seeing them pinned in the mud and covered in blood, yet refusing to let her go, the terrified Angela experienced a profound shift deep within her soul. At this moment, a maturity far beyond her years took over. She realized that if this continued, her father would be beaten to death and her mother would be sold away. She couldn't be selfish, she had to save them. Summoning an unknown strength, Angela broke free from Susan's grip and threw her fragile body onto the muddy ground, kneeling frantically before Kevin and Susan, her forehead quickly bruising against the hard earth as she bowed repeatedly excitedly, "Uncle, Aunt, please let my mother go, sell me instead. I'll go with them quietly, just don't hurt my parents. I lied to them, I am not their daughter at all. They lost their own little girl, and I tricked them into thinking I was her. I am just an unwanted orphan, please let them go." Hearing her words, Susan burst into a sharp mocking laugh, pointing at Austin and Madeline in the mud. "Ha ha ha ha, did you hear that, you idiots? She is not even your kid, you took a beating for a liar." However, pinned down in the mud, Austin and Madeline trembled violently upon hearing Angela's heartbreaking confession. Angela's cries of being an unwanted orphan and her begging to save her parents pierced their hearts like burning knives. Even though their memories were still completely blank, the deep bond they had formed, Angela's sweetness, her warmth, and the way she called them daddy and mommy every day had already left an indelible mark on their souls. Amnesia could erase names, but it could never erase the fierce love of a parent. To them, she was their irreplaceable daughter. "Angela, what are you talking about?" Austin forced his head up from the mud. Though his face was covered in filth and blood, his eyes burned with a terrifying, unyielding resolve. He screamed at Angela, "You are my daughter. As long as you call me daddy, I, Austin, will protect you with my life. No one will ever take you away from me." Pinned beside her, Madeline was also crying uncontrollably. She crawled desperately toward Angela, shouting through her tears, "Angela, don't be afraid, mommy is right here. You are my daughter, and nothing will ever change that." Angela looked at the two people who were willing to defy the entire world just to protect her, and the coldest, most guarded corner of her heart completely melted. She cried out, for the first time truly claiming them as her safe haven, "Daddy, mommy." Their daughter's cries acted like a powerful surge of adrenaline for Austin. This normally refined man erupted with a terrifying, primal strength to protect his family. With a roaring cry, he violently threw off the thugs holding him down and lunged like a madman toward the men pinning Madeline. The scene instantly dissolved into absolute chaos. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Kevin panicked. He spotted a sharp, heavy stone nearby, picked it up, and with a twisted, manic expression, slammed it brutally against the back of Austin's head while his back was turned. A sickening thud echoed through the air. Blood instantly erupted from Austin's head, blurring his vision, but he used his absolute last ounce of strength to throw his body over Madeline to shield her. "Austin!" Madeline let out a piercing shriek, her heart tearing apart in agony. Before she could reach out to him, the vicious Susan rushed over from the side, pushing Madeline with all her might. "Go to hell, you annoying bitch!" Madeline gasped as her fragile body rolled helplessly down the steep, rocky slope. During the fall, her head struck a sharp boulder with a blunt impact. With a soft groan, blood stained the gravel beneath her. Her vision went black, and she lay completely motionless in a pool of blood. "Mommy, Daddy!" Watching the parents who loved her more than life itself end up gravely injured and unconscious, young Angela completely broke down, kneeling in the mud and screaming in absolute despair. Suddenly, a piercing, overwhelming chorus of sirens echoed across the valley. The sound grew louder and closer, carrying an intimidating authority that shattered the silence of the countryside. Susan and Kevin froze instantly, and the trafficker Brad's face turned pale with horror. "Damn it, it is the police. Move, let's get out of here." Dozens of state trooper vehicles roared onto the scene, followed by a fleet of black luxury SUVs. A small army of elite professional bodyguards in suits swarmed the area, instantly surrounding Susan, Kevin, Brad, and their thugs until they were completely trapped. It turned out that the prominent families back in the city had mobilized immediately upon discovering the couple's disappearance. The family's chief assistant had used satellite tracking on Austin's vehicle to pinpoint this remote area and contacted the state police to launch a full-scale rescue operation. Facing the barrels of law enforcement, weapons, and rows of heavily armed security, the arrogant criminals completely lost their nerve, their legs shaking violently. The stone slipped from Kevin's hand, clattering onto the ground as he fell to his knees in the mud, throwing his hands up and crying for mercy. "Officers, it wasn't me, it was all Susan's idea, she wanted to sell the kid." Susan also collapsed to the ground, terrified out of her mind, begging desperately, but justice was uncompromising. Officers moved in with absolute precision, slamming Susan, Kevin, and Brad face first into the dirt, the heavy steel handcuffs clicking sharply around their wrists as they were dragged away like dogs into the police cruisers, facing severe federal charges. With the criminals captured, several emergency medical vehicles rushed onto the scene. Paramedics quickly rushed down the slope with stretchers, stabilizing the critically injured couple. Angela clutched Madeline's hand tightly as she hung beside the stretcher, crying silently as she accompanied them into the ambulance. The scene shifted to the most luxurious VIP intensive care unit at the City Central Hospital. After a tense night of emergency procedures, the second severe impact to Madeline's head had miraculously reverse-engineered her amnesia, and when she opened her eyes, her memory was fully restored. The elders of both wealthy families, flanked by security, rushed anxiously into the ward upon hearing the news. Madeline's father sighed heavily, his voice cracking with emotion. "We still haven't found any trace of our lost Lily." Mentioning his missing granddaughter brought tears to the old man's eyes. Hearing the name Lily, Madeline's mind instantly connected her memories from before the crash with her experiences during her amnesia. Tears flowed down her cheeks as she turned to the chief assistant standing by the bed, asking weakly but urgently, "Where is the little girl who rescued us from the crash scene?" The assistant stepped forward respectfully, wiping his eyes with emotion. "Ma'am, please rest assured, the little girl named Angela only suffered minor surface injuries and is resting next door. Honestly, it is a miracle. The engine caught fire after the crash, and it was entirely thanks to this 6-year-old girl risking her life to drag you and the master out of that wreckage." During her examination, the doctors found countless old scars on her body, indicating long-term abuse. Remarkably, on her right arm, there is a very distinct, what did you say, a scar? Madeline's entire body shook violently as she sat bolt upright in bed, her breathing turning incredibly heavy as buried memories rushed back. She remembered vividly that 6 years ago, their Lily had suffered a severe accidental burn on her right arm. The specialist back then had explicitly stated that the wound was so deep it would leave a permanent, unalterable scar even as she grew up. Could all of this truly be a coincidence? "Austin, that is our Lily, that has to be our Lily," Madeline cried out, throwing off the blankets and running out of the room. Austin, his head bandaged but eyes completely clear, rushed right behind her along with the emotional family elders. Angela was sitting quietly by herself on a bench in the VIP hallway, wearing clean hospital scrubs. Her small frame looked incredibly fragile. She looked up in surprise as a group of people approached, seeing Madeline running toward her with a face covered in tears. "Mommy," she whispered naturally. To everyone's astonishment, Madeline dropped straight to her knees on the floor, weeping without a care for her dignity as a high society matriarch. Trembling, she gently but urgently reached for Angela's right arm and pulled up her sleeve. The soft hallway lights illuminated the little girl's thin arm. There on her pale but rough skin was a distinct 2-inch-long deep red burn scar resting vividly on her forearm. Staring at the exact mark that had haunted her dreams for 6 agonizing years, Madeline's mind went completely blank before a heartbreaking cry of pure joy echoed through the hospital corridor. "Lily, my baby girl, Mommy finally found you." She pulled Angela into her arms with all her strength as if trying to fuse her daughter into her soul, weeping bitterly. "I am so sorry. It is all Mommy's fault for losing you. I am so sorry." Austin, a powerful billionaire who never showed weakness, threw his arms around his wife and daughter, his tears flowing freely. "Lily, Daddy is here. We are taking you home and no one will ever hurt you again." The family elders stood by, finally realizing the incredible truth. Austin's mother covered her mouth in tears, while Madeline's father looked up, sighing with immense gratitude. Held tightly in the warm, fiercely protective embrace of her true parents, listening to their genuine cries of love, and feeling the undeniable warmth of a real family, the fear and insecurity in Angela's eyes completely vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. She was not an unwanted orphan. The lie she had told out of desperation to escape her tragic fate had, through the magic of love and justice, become the most beautiful reality. Look closely, everyone, in this magnificent mansion. A dramatic story is unfolding. A top-tier boss has amnesia, and the real heiress is a servant in her own home. Late at night, the luxurious Pierce estate is brightly lit, but at the long dining table, the atmosphere is suffocating. Look at this little girl, Emily, only a few years old, with pigtails. She wears a small blue-gray striped shirt and stands timidly aside. Her little stomach is growling loudly from hunger. She looks at the maid, Nanny Lou, with innocent, aggrieved eyes and whispers, "Ma'am, I am hungry." Look at Nanny Lou, her tone is incredibly harsh and mean. She doesn't even look up, just rolls her cold eyes and snaps at Emily. "You worthless girl, didn't you just eat with the servants? How are you complaining about being hungry again already?" Before Emily can even speak, Nanny Lou waves her hand dismissively. She points at the beautifully arranged pink cupcakes and expensive wines on the table. She scolds her sharply. "Listen to me clearly, all these fine pastries are for the master and young master. Our master hates cheap country trash like you touching his things. Get back to your utility room right now. Stop being an eyesore here." Emily's eyes turn bright red, large tears welling up, but she stares stubbornly at the floor. She doesn't say a single word. She turns around awkwardly, dragging her heavy steps down the long corridor. She runs all the way back to her dim, damp, and simple room. Emily throws herself onto the hard bed, gripping the edge of her shirt tightly. The tears she held back finally burst out like broken strings of pearls. She sobs painfully, burying her little face in the pillow, crying out from her heart, "Mom, Emily is so hungry. I see you in my dreams. When are you coming back to take Emily home?" This cruel treatment breaks your heart. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mansion, the scene shifts to a neat hospital room smelling of sharp bleach. A young woman lies on the bed, pale as paper under an oxygen mask. A white bandage stained with fresh blood is pressed tightly to her forehead. She is currently in a deep coma. Beside the bed stands a young man in a high-end black embroidered suit. He looks reserved and deep, the current ruler of Empire Group and young master of the Pierce family. His name is Charles. Charles looks at his wife Chloe, whose life hangs in the balance, his eyes full of pain. He rubs his temples in agony, his mind still groggy. Just then the elder Mr. Pierce walks in slowly, leaning on his cane. He adjusts his glasses, a very serious and heavy expression on his face. he asks his son in a low voice. Charles, is the young mistress doing any better today? What do the doctors say? A flash of despair crosses Charles's face as he shakes his head weakly. It is hard to say right now. The doctor says the blood clot hasn't cleared. She needs a long period of absolute rest before she can wake up. After speaking, Charles stands up, feeling lost, intending to make some liquid food for her. The elder Mr. Pierce sighs and instructs him, take care of yourself. As for that little girl Emily, Nanny Lou is watching her. You don't need to worry about it. But who could guess, when Charles rushes to the kitchen door and pushes it open, the scene inside instantly makes his blood boil with rage. Amidst shattered porcelain pieces on the floor, Nanny Lou stands with hands on her hips. Her face is twisted in rage as she screams wildly at Emily, who is kneeling. Nanny Lee yells like a madwoman, you ungrateful little brat, you can't do one thing right. You broke a plate just washing it. Do you know how costly this fine china is? You are doing this on purpose to anger me. As she curses, the wicked Nanny Lou grabs the little girl's arm tightly. She raises a long broom high in the air. With a sharp whistling sound, she swings it viciously toward Emily's tender face. Emily cries out in terror, covering her head as the heavy blow is about to strike. At that exact split second, the door is slammed open with immense force. Charles rushes in like a furious eagle, with his legs slightly bent. His long, pale, yet powerful hand cuts through the air. Like an iron vise, he catches Nanny Lou's raised with perfect precision. The broom stops just inches above Emily's head, unable to move a fraction more. Charles's eyes flash with fierce anger, his face cold as ice. He roars sharply, stop right there. Nanny Lou is completely stunned, the broom slipping from her trembling hand to the floor. She quickly pulls her hand back guiltily, putting on a fake submissive face. She immediately tries to shift the blame. Young master, you misunderstand. I wasn't going to hit her. This little girl is just too disobedient. Charles doesn't even grant her a single glance. Heartbroken, he kneels down and gently takes Emily's small bleeding hand. On her fair skin, a clear sharp cut from the porcelain shards is bleeding. Charles's eyes fill with deep pain, his voice shaking from a breaking heart. He tears a piece of his shirt to carefully bandage her wound. He asks softly, Emily, does it hurt? Don't be afraid, Uncle is here, no one will hurt you. Emily sobs, raising her tear-stained face, and shakes her head timidly. Uncle, it doesn't hurt. This shocking scene and tender moment make the elder Mr. Pierce frown deeply behind them. He snorts in displeasure, hands behind his back, lecturing his son coldly. Charles, you are acting strange today, throwing a tantrum over a mere servant. It is just a minor scratch. What is the big deal? Don't forget who you are. You are inheriting a multi-billion-dollar estate. Don't throw away our family rules for a wild country girl. Charles stands up abruptly, straightening his suit, an intense aura of authority pressing down. He grits his teeth, his words carrying immense weight as he fires back. Dad, how can you say that? Emily may be from the countryside, but she is a human being. As long as I am in this house, I will never allow anyone to abuse a child. Come, Uncle will take you to the hospital to treat this. With that, Charles takes Emily's hand and leaves the kitchen without looking back. Seeing his son openly defy him for an outsider, the elder Mr. Pierce's face twists in rage. He points in their direction, spitting words through his teeth. Rebellion, absolute rebellion. Standing aside, Nanny Lou's suspicious eyes dart between Charles and Emily's backs. A deeply sinister and wicked smile forms on her lips. The malicious Nanny Lou moves very fast. A bit later, when Charles goes to the office for a top-secret billion-dollar project, she walks into the narrow restroom with a dark face. Looking at Emily, who is kneeling and washing clothes with her bandaged hand, Nanny Lou's eyes gleam with cruel and mad delight. She looks around cautiously to ensure they are completely alone. Suddenly, she pulls a large bag of secretly bought coarse salt from her apron pocket. Nanny Lou expertly dumps the entire bag of salt into Emily's laundry basin. The salt dissolves instantly, creating thick white bubbles on the water's surface. With a twisted face, she grabs a nearby mop and stirs the water thoroughly. She orders with a sinister, cold laugh, wash, scrub harder. If you don't finish these clothes today, you won't get a single bite of food. I'll disinfect you on behalf of the mistress, so you learn your place. Coarse salt on an open wound causes unbearable agony. The moment Emily's freshly bandaged hand touches the water, a piercing pain shoots through her. Her entire body shudders from the pain, tears dropping like rain into the basin. But she bites her lip hard, forcing her cries back down. Seeing Emily trembling in agony, Nanny Lou smiles proudly. She turns on her high heels and walks out of the restroom. The scene changes to the elegant main banquet hall of the Pierce mansion. At the dining table, the elder Mrs. Pierce sits gracefully in a black gold embroidered gown. Beside her, the elder Mr. Pierce carefully handles a flawless family jade amulet. This amulet is a century-old family heirloom and their only clue to their lost daughter. The elder Mr. Pierce sighs deeply as he looks at the jade, speaking to his wife. My dear, our little girl has been missing for 20 whole years. Lately my heart feels so heavy, especially during holidays. Seeing other families gathered together feels like a knife twisting in my chest. Where is our little girl suffering right now? Is she warm and fed? The elder Mrs. Pierce wipes her tears and agrees. Yes, back then Chloe and Charles separated because of her loss. Now Chloe is in the hospital and Charles acts like a different person. Since our family projects are worth billions. Maybe we should get them back together. It would finally fulfill our family's deepest wish. The elder Mr. Pierce nods quickly in agreement. The old couple decides to go upstairs to change and head to the hospital. Before leaving, Mr. Pierce carelessly leaves the precious jade amulet at the table's end. They hurry away from the hall, but just as the two elders leave the room, Nanny Liu comes over to clear the table. Her face is full of a petty, arrogant smile. As she wipes near the leather seating, her cloth slips with a loud snap. She accidentally flips the family jade amulet right off the table. A sharp cracking sound echoes through the empty hall. The priceless heirloom smashes into several pieces on the smooth tiles. Nanny Liu looks down at the fragments, her arrogant smile instantly vanishing. Her pupils shrink in pure terror, her face turning pale as a ghost. Her legs go weak, and she almost falls straight to her knees. She covers her mouth tightly, cold sweat pouring down, stammering in panic. Ruined, I am completely ruined. If the master knows I broke his treasure, he'll sue me into bankruptcy and jail. As Nanny Liu panics like an ant on a hot pan, Emily happens to walk past the hall carrying a glass of water after washing clothes. Nanny Liu looks up and sees Emily's innocent face. A deeply sinister and wicked trap flashes through her guilty mind. She grits her teeth, tightly grips her cloth, and instantly puts on a furious face. She rushes forward, grabbing Emily's collar without warning, screaming hysterically, "Thief! Someone help! Catch the thief! You uncultured brat! How dare you steal the master's antique!" The main doors are slammed open with force. The elder Mr. Pierce, Mrs. Pierce, and Charles rush in, surrounded by black-suited guards. Mr. Pierce enters and sees his ancestral treasure smashed to pieces. His face turns bright red with absolute fury. He slams the table, roaring hysterically at Emily. "You wretched girl, what is the meaning of this? In all my years, I have never seen such an ungrateful snake." Seeing her backing arrive, Nanny Liu breaks into floods of tears. She stumbles and kneels at Mr. Pierce's feet, wailing dramatically, "Master, madam, you must help me. I saw this wild girl brought in by the young mistress lingering by the table. She was trying to steal this jade amulet. I tried to stop her, but she threw it on the floor to frame someone else." Emily is terrified by this sudden, overwhelming attack. The cold glares of countless guards press down on her heavily. She clenches her small fists, tears spinning in her eyes, screaming with all her might, "It wasn't me, it really wasn't me." The nanny dropped it herself while wiping the table with her cloth. "I am not lying. Grandpa, please believe me." Hearing Emily expose her in public, Nanny loses her mind completely. She stands up, pointing viciously at Emily's face, screaming curses. "You shameless liar, you don't even blush when you lie. I've been a nanny here for 20 years. Why would I frame a child? Know your place. You are just a beggar servant. How dare you accuse me?" To flatter Nanny Liu, the other maids whisper and add fuel to the fire. In an instant, the entire hall is filled with accusations against Emily. The elder Mrs. Pierce, not knowing the truth, turns red with anger. She raises her heavy hand, swinging it viciously toward Emily's tender face. At that exact second, Charles steps forward and grabs the old lady's arm firmly. His sharp, hawk-like eyes sweep the room, cutting everyone off coldly. "All of you shut up. Heaven is watching what we do. It is too early to conclude who is lying and framing who. Assistant Chen, bring me the tablet connected to the house security system. Today, I will clear this setup in front of everyone." Hearing about the security footage, Nanny Liu's crying stops instantly. She freezes on the spot, a sudden wave of dread washing over her entire body. She avoids Charles's gaze, nervously tugging at Mrs. Pierce's dress, whispering, "Young master, there is no need to make a scene over a mere servant. Just throw her out." Charles lets out a cold laugh, his tone completely non-negotiable. "Won't confess. Then we will settle this in court." The air in the hall seems to freeze instantly. The scene shifts into a long dramatic flashback. It is a rainy, dreary remote small town. Young Emily wears a worn-out black plaid shirt, her face dirty and hair messy. She walks alone along a muddy road. Several mean kids surround her, shaking stones in their hands. Mocking her, they laugh and sing cruel rhymes, mocking her for having no parents, saying she deserves to live in the mud, worse than a stray dog. In the clip, a middle-aged man from the town approaches with deep disgust. He throws an empty basket violently at Emily. The man yells coldly at her, "Get lost, you cursed brat. Ever since you arrived, things have been awful. I'd rather feed scraps to dogs than give you a single grain. Take your tools to the hills and dig for weeds. Go die outside." The camera snaps back to reality. While everyone gasps at this tragic memory of her past, the scene suddenly cuts back to the Grand Hospital. Inside the room, Chloe, who everyone thought might never wake up, her long eyelashes suddenly flutter violently. The next second, she sits up abruptly from the wide hospital bed. She rips off her oxygen mask, drenched in cold sweat, her eyes wide with terror. She screams a name hysterically, with agonizing pain. Emily, my Emily, let me out. The family members waiting by the bed are completely stunned. Charles and the shocked elder Mrs. Pierce rush to hold her up. Charles's eyes turn red as he cries out, Chloe, you are finally awake. I've been here for 3 days and nights. But Chloe doesn't care about her health, grabbing Charles's tie tightly. Her beautiful face is twisted in pure panic as she wails in tears. Charles, quickly, go save Emily. Emily is not some random child we picked up from the countryside. The second before I lost consciousness in the crash, I saw it clearly. Emily has a ruby birthmark on her wrist, identical to our daughter's, and her scent matches our baby girl who went missing 20 years ago. Emily is our flesh and blood, our lost daughter. Like a sudden clap of thunder, this truth hits the old couple's hearts. The elder Mr. Pierce is completely stunned, his mind blank as he steps back. He stammers to himself in deep regret. How is this possible? Emily is my real granddaughter. And all this time, I locked my own precious joy in a utility room. I even cut off her food. I am an absolute monster. The elder Mrs. Pierce bursts into loud tears, clutching her head, going mad with grief. To get absolute scientific proof, Charles doesn't hesitate, his legs shaking. He turns to his assistant at the door and roars a lethal command. Wayne, right now, get the head of the top forensic center here immediately. Take my hair and Emily's blood sample for an express DNA paternity test. After hours of agonizing, painful waiting, the lab doors are thrown open. The doctor in a white coat walks through the crowd with an urgent report. He boasts slightly, presenting the papers to Charles with a clear voice. Mr. Pierce, the results are out. The test confirms a genetic match of 99.99%. The little girl Emily is absolutely your biological daughter. Holding this solid proof, a dark, fierce glint flashes in Charles's eyes. The scene returns to the Pierce mansion hall. The elder Mr. Pierce has returned home with guards furious and ready for blood. Entering, he sees Nanny Liu sitting on the couch, trying to charm Mrs. Pierce. Mr. Pierce doesn't say a single word, his face filled with cold, deadly hatred. He strides forward, and before Nanny Liu can even realize what is happening, his right hand swings with lightning speed, delivering loud, stinging slaps. These slaps carry his full strength, knocking Nanny Liu right to the floor. Half her face swells instantly, and a trail of fresh blood spills from her mouth. Nanny Liu is stunned, crying out like a slaughtered animal on the floor. Master, are you mad? Why are you hitting me? The one who stole the jade is Emily. It has nothing to do with me. Assistant Chen steps forward confidently, holding a tablet up for all to see. The high-definition security footage plays clearly for the entire room. The video shows that at 2 o'clock, no one else was near the long table. Nanny Liu flipped the heirloom jade over herself while wiping with a white cloth. Not only that, the clip cuts to the restroom footage. It shows her maliciously pouring salt into the basin to torture Emily's wound. Seeing the video, the maids who were just helping her turn pale as paper. They shut their mouths tightly, not daring to utter another word. Mr. Pierce shakes with rage, kicking near Nanny Liu, pointing at her nose. You worthless piece of filth, taking my money while doing such vile deeds. How dare you abuse the true eldest daughter of the Pierce family? The disgusting trash who corrupted our high society is you. Guards, arrest this evil woman. Take her to the police station for full charges. Let her rot in prison until she dies. The moment the cold handcuffs snap shut on her wrists, Nanny Liu loses all hope. Her legs give out, and she rolls on the floor like a dog, begging loudly, Master, I was wrong. I lost my mind. Please forgive me for my years of service. But Mr. Pierce is cold as ice, refusing to even look at her again, spitting out one word, begone. Dragged forcibly by guards, the broken Nanny Liu is removed from the mansion. She faces total ruin and a lifetime behind bars. After handling this filth, the family doesn't even change clothes. Escorted by a fleet of black Rolls-Royce Phantoms, they rush to the outskirts of Boston. Cold wind howls along the muddy path. Young Emily is walking alone, carrying a heavy burlap sack taller than herself. Holding a rusty tool in her small hand, she stumbles through the rocky terrain. She is slowly walking to harvest wild greens. Her plaid shirt is completely ruined and stained by the muddy ground. Her tiny figure looks incredibly lonely and tragic under the setting sun. Seeing this, Chloe and Charles sprint from the car, nearly fainting from heartbreak. Chloe doesn't even care that she lost her shoes. Running into the cold wind, she cries out hysterically and throws herself forward. She pulls Emily tightly into a fierce embrace. Tears stream down her face as she buries her head in her daughter's shoulder. Holding her tight, she wails in deep sorrow. My baby mommy finally found you. I am so sorry for letting you suffer. Emily is startled by this beautiful mother suddenly holding her. But as the bond of blood and the warm scent of a mother reach her, the little girl's hollow, hopeless eyes finally spark with bright light again. She sensibly extends her small hand, gently patting her mother's back. She comforts her mother with a sweet, innocent voice. Mommy, please don't cry. Emily is right here. Did bad people hurt you because Emily wasn't home? Don't worry, Emily will grow very strong and do lots of chores to protect you. Behind them, the elder Mr. and Mrs. Pierce look look at the mother and daughter. Their faces are filled with deep shame and agony. Regretful tears mix with dust, pouring down their faces. Mr. Pierce falls to his knees on the rocks, beating his chest in tears. My child, it is all Grandpa's fault. I was blind to let you suffer like this. This cruel conspiracy of abuse and loss finally reaches its end. The true heiress returns to her rightful place to take over her legacy. Justice wins a total victory as the villains get their due punishment. Emily, fully supported by her parents and family, steps into a warm home. By the cozy fireplace, she begins a brilliant new chapter of her multi-billion-dollar empire. Have you ever seen a billionaire's reunion party blown to pieces by a sudden secret son? This man in the white suit with total sincerity in his eyes is Charles Pierce. Sitting right next to him is Chloe, the ex-gen wife he waited 5 long years for. They are at a massive dining table loaded with top-tier seafood and French cuisine. For the first time ever, the heads of the Pierce and Baker families are sitting together. Old Mr. Pierce and Chloe's grandfather, Mr. Baker, are happily planning the big reunion. Mr. Baker slams the table with a flushed face. Perfect. Now that the old misunderstandings are cleared up, we are going all out for this. We'll party for 3 days and 3 nights, so all of New York knows my girl is marrying in style. But despite the overwhelming excitement from the elders, Chloe just bites her lip tightly. She looks incredibly tense as she stares down, gripping her dress with both hands. Dad, Mom, what happened back then was just too complicated. I feel like there are still things we haven't fully talked through yet. Charles doesn't hesitate for a single second and stands straight up. He steps forward heavily in front of every relative and servant in the room. With red eyes, he walks right up to Chloe. This proud businessman, who always gets his way, bends his stiff back in front of everyone. His voice is incredibly raspy, almost breaking into tears. Chloe, everything was my fault 5 years ago. I messed up big time. I failed to watch our daughter Emily at the theme park, making you suffer for 5 years. Believe it or not, you are the only woman who has ever mattered to me. I am begging you, Chloe, for our child's sake, give me one more chance, please. As Chloe stares into her ex-den husband's bloodshot eyes, her mind completely races. Sitting at the head of the table in a cute pink dress, little Abba stops eating her pastry. She runs over to her mother on her tiny legs. She grabs Chloe's pale hand with her warm little fingers. Her big eyes flash with a hope she has never shown before as she begs softly, Mommy, Abba really wants a real home. I want Mommy and Daddy to be together forever. Daddy already knows he was wrong. Please say yes to Daddy. Mommy, okay. Looking at her deeply sensible daughter and her deeply regretful ex-gen husband, the thick ice around Chloe's heart completely melts under pure love and sudden happiness. Her hand shakes as she pulls Abba into a tight embrace, tears flooding down her face. She finally gives Charles a soft nod. Okay, Charles, for our daughter's sake, let's do this. Let's get remarried. Fantastic. This is absolutely amazing. Old Mr. Pierce and Mr. Baker burst into loud laughter, raising their glasses. Old Mr. Pierce stands up in pure excitement, slamming the table to call the butler, Thomas. Go bring out the finest wine from my private collection right now, and first thing tomorrow, get people to move all of Chloe and Abba's things to the mansion. But before his laughter even fades, frantic footsteps echo from the grand hallway. Thomas the butler runs in pale as a ghost and completely stumbling. He is moving so fast that he slams straight into the carved wooden doors of the dining room. Clinging to the frame, he screams in absolute terror, Sir Master, this is bad. Word from the front gates, Madam is back. What, my mother? The smiles instantly freeze on old Mr. Pierce and Mrs. Pierce's faces. The gold wine glass claps out of old Mr. Pierce's hand onto the table. Cold sweat instantly breaks out across both of their aging faces. Before anyone can react to the news, heavy thuds echo through the dead silent hall. It is the unmistakable thumping sound of a cane striking the hard floor. The heavy front doors of the Pierce mansion are violently thrown open from the outside. Leading the way is an old woman in a black gown embroidered with gold silk. Her silver hair is styled perfectly and her face is incredibly dark. Her wrinkled but powerful hand grips a solid gold cane tightly. She is the most powerful figure in the Pierce family. Charles's grandmother, the matriarch, leaning closely against her, is a young woman in an off-zenith shoulder black dress. She wears a wide black hat, looking incredibly flashy and provocative with heavy makeup. She holds the matriarch's arm tightly, her eyes flashing with pure arrogance and mockery. Mom, weren't you at that top medical clinic in Los Angeles for your heart? Why are you back so early without sending a single word? Old Mr. Pierce rushes forward with his wife, putting on a fake pleasing smile. The matriarch completely ignores her son and lets out a sharp snort. Her hawksin-like eyes lock instantly onto Chloe across the room. She slams her gold cane onto the floor with a powerful roar. If I didn't come back early, this entire mansion would be stolen by some trashy woman. That cold insult hits Chloe straight in the face like a brutal slap. Charles frowns instantly, stepping forward to shield Chloe behind his back. Grandmother, how can you say that? Chloe is my wife and Abba's mother. We are discussing our remarriage right now, and both families are here. Show some respect. Wife, remarriage. What an absolute joke. The matriarch shoves her helpers away and walks heavily toward the dining table. She glares down at Chloe with pure disgust and arrogance, letting out a cold laugh. Charles, get one thing straight. This woman divorced our family family 2 years ago. She doesn't have a single thing to do with the Pierce family anymore. The Pierce and Baker families are completely done. Nobody crosses my gates today. Boom, Mr. Baker completely loses his temper now, slamming the table as he stands straight up. He points directly at the matriarch's face and fires back furiously. You disrespectful old woman, who are you calling trashy? My daughter Chloe is completely innocent. If your family hadn't blamed her, she wouldn't have suffered. You walk in here throwing insults at my girl. Do you think the Bakers are weak? What kind of twisted game are you playing? A twisted game. I am doing this for the absolute future of the Pierce family. Facing the furious Mr. Baker, the matriarch doesn't back down a single inch. She raises her chin and makes a massive declaration. The Pierce family is a top-tier dynasty in New York. We need a male heir for our billions. And your useless daughter did nothing but give birth to a single girl years ago. Are you trying to tell me you want our family line to end right here? You are living in the dark ages. Mr. Baker turns bright red, ready to flip the table and fight her, but Charles quickly steps right between the two elders to block them. Charles grits his teeth hard, his eyes filled with pure determination and desperation. Grandmother, what century are you living in? Drop these outdated ideas about boys. Ava might be a girl, but she is brilliant and carries my biological blood. I have already decided that from this day on, Ava inherits every single cent of my wealth. As for other women, Chloe is the only one for me. I am never marrying anyone else. Insolent brat, you dare defy my direct words. The matriarch shakes with absolute rage, her wrinkles twisting as she raises her gold cane. She looks ready to smash it down hard right onto Charles. Grandmother, please don't get upset. Think of your health. You just had heart surgery. The woman standing next to her, Rachel, instantly puts on a sweet innocent face. Ta gently rubs the matriarch's back to calm her down while staring deeply at Charles. Charles, don't blame grandmother. She is only looking out for you. There is something you don't know yet. Actually, I am already. The matriarch grabs Rachel's hand tightly and turns to glare at Chloe and Mr. Baker. A wild triumphant grin spreads across her face. Charles, stop bringing up that little girl to me. A girl isn't inheriting my empire. You claim you can't have a son with anyone else, fine. Today in front of both families I am going to show you something incredible. The matriarch waves her hand toward the closed mansion doors, shouting with full force, Rachel, bring out my precious grandson right now. The moment those words drop, everyone stares at the door with absolute shock and anxiety. The crisp, innocent footsteps of a little boy echo from the hallway. A cute little boy with a bowl cut walks in, wearing a white suit with suspenders. He carries a small blue backpack and holds a panda plushie in his small hands. The moment little Tommy walks in, Rachel rushes over like a madwoman. She grabs the child into a tight hug, bursting into intense dramatic tears. Tommy, my sweet boy, mommy finally brought you to see your father. Look right there, that man in the white suit is your real daddy. Call him daddy. Young Tommy raises his chubby face, looking fearfully at Charles's completely frozen expression. Then he opens his mouth and shouts in a loud, clear voice, Daddy, boom. That single word hits the dining room like a massive explosion, shocking every adult. Old Mr. Pierce freezes completely, his silver fork dropping straight to the floor. Mr. Baker's eyes widen in absolute disbelief, his mind completely racing. Standing behind Charles, Chloe turns paler than a ghost the instant she hears the word. Her body shakes violently as she stumbles back, almost crashing into the floor. She stares at Charles's back with a completely dead, hopeless gaze. No, that is impossible. That is a flat and outlier. Charles completely snaps at this point, stepping back as if he touched fire. He points at Tommy in Rachel's arms, his eyes filled with pure terror and rage. Rachel, you crazy woman, what kind of garbage are you talking about? How on earth could this child be mine? I have never touched a single hair on your body. What kind of sick game are you playing with my grandmother? Chloe, please listen to me. This child is absolutely not mine. I swear on my life, never touched me. Charles, how can you be so incredibly heartless? Facing his explosive anger, Rachel looks entirely prepared for this moment. She wipes her fake tears and gives a deeply hurt, weak smile. She reaches into her designer bag with her diamonds and ringed hand. She pulls out a fresh official document that still smells of printer ink. Matriarch, Mr. Pierce, take a look at this. I had this DNA paternity test done directly at the New York First Hospital Forensic Center. Rachel walks over on her high heels, sliding the report right in front of the elders. The crisp white paper carries a bright red official hospital stamp. Under the final conclusion, a bold red box states clearly, based on DNA sample analysis, the probability of paternity between Charles Pierce and Tommy Zhao is by Jojo. Biological father and son relationship is fully confirmed. The proof is right there in black and white. Boom. This completely shatters any defense Charles has left. Old Mr. Pierce stares at the words, father and son relationship, and feels completely destroyed. destroyed. He sways on his feet, almost blacking out right on the spot. Grandfather Mr. Baker is entirely furious now, his blood boiling to the limit. He looks at the document, then at Rachel, and then at the boy calling Charles daddy. He loses his mind completely, grabbing Charles by his white suit collar. His face twists in pure rage as he unleashes his full power. He delivers a massive brutal slap right across Charles's handsome face. Crack! The sharp sound echoes loudly through the entire Pierce mansion. The force of the slap spins Charles around, crashing him hard into the long table. He smashes countless plates and glasses as blood runs down his face, but he can't say a single word to fight back. In front of an official medical document, any words are completely useless and weak. Charles Pierce, you absolute fake, you spineless piece of garbage. Mr. Baker points at Charles on the table, shaking with rage as his nails dig into his palms. You kept saying you loved my daughter, saying you stayed loyal for 5 years, but you have a secret son, who is already this old running around, and you have the nerve to bring a stamped paternity test to our faces. Your family is playing us for fools and humiliating my daughter in public. Fine, perfect. No, it is not like that. Chloe, believe me, this report is fake. Rachel rigged it. Charles ignores the blood on his face and drops to his knees, trying to grab Chloe's dress, but Chloe's eyes are completely empty now. Tears stream silently down her pale cheeks, breaking into pieces on the cold floor. She doesn't scream or rage, she just stares down at the kneeling man with a freezing dead look of pure betrayal. Charles, Chloe interrupts him with a calm, terrifyingly cold voice. Stop talking, the DNA test is right here. What else is there to say? So for the past 5 years, your love and your longing were nothing but lies. You have a son, yet you brought Ava and me here to face this humiliation. Chloe takes a deep breath and leans down to pull the trembling Ava into a tight hug. She turns to look at the triumphant matriarch and the smirking Rachel. She gives a deeply bitter but completely resolute smile. Matriarch, do not worry, I may not be swimming in wealth, but I have my dignity. I am not throwing away my daughter's future. Since your family has this perfect male heir, we will get out of your way. We are leaving this spot open for the new mistress and the future heir. With that, Chloe never looks back at Charles again. She carries Ava and walks away with heavy, powerful steps, protected by Mr. Baker and several massive bodyguards. She exits like a freezing wind. She storms right out of the Pierce mansion into the midnight downpour. Lying under the table, Charles watches her leave as his heart breaks into a million pieces. As his vision blurs, a dark, painful memory flashes like a movie in his mind. It happened a few years ago in a High-Zen club in the center of the city. Back then, their biological daughter Emily had just gone missing at the park. Chloe was completely devastated, fighting with Charles every single day at home. Unable to handle the massive pressure, Charles fled the cold house to drink alone. He sat at the bar downing heavy shots of liquor like a madman. Just as he passed out drunk, losing all sense of direction, a young woman in a sheer black dress quietly slid into the seat next to him. It was his old college classmate Rachel. In the memory, Rachel looked at the past Zen-out Charles with pure greed and malice. She slowly picked up her glass and leaned in close to his ear, whispering seductively, Charles, Chloe does nothing but scream at you at home. You must be so stressed. Why don't I stay here tonight and keep you company to help you forget? The memory ends with Charles completely wasted, being dragged away by a smirking Rachel. She led him straight toward a cold hotel room on the top floor of the club. Charles, snap out of it. Pull yourself together. Are you seriously destroying yourself over a useless mother and daughter? The matriarch's sharp shout snaps Charles straight back to the freezing reality. The matriarch sits on the sofa, holding little Tommy tightly with deep affection. She looks up at Rachel with absolute pride and makes a massive announcement. Rachel, you suffered alone overseas raising Tommy all these years, but now that the DNA test is out, nobody touches your spot as the true mistress. Starting tomorrow, you report directly to the Pierce Group headquarters. I am appointing you as the executive vice president of the entire company. In the future, my precious grandson Tommy inherits every single cent of our wealth. Oh, grandmother, you are too kind to us. Thank you so much. Rachel holds Tommy's hand, her face turning red with absolute excitement. She bows repeatedly to the matriarch to show her thanks. At this exact moment, her true intentions are completely exposed. The college history and the years of waiting were all for one thing, the Pierce billions. But this wicked woman has no idea that her actions have fully awoken a sleeping giant. Charles lets out a cold laugh as he slowly stands up from the floor. He locks his gaze onto Rachel's smug face with a terrifying, deadly look. He raises his blood-stained hand and points directly at her nose, roaring like a beast. Rachel, stop playing this disgusting game for my family's wealth. I am stating this clearly right now in front of every ancestor of this family. I do not care how you forged that stamped paternity test document, but I swear on my life, I have never touched a single hair on your body. Charles takes a massive step forward, unleashing a suffocating wave of pure killer aura. He grits his teeth and lets out a dark, chilling laugh. You better take this random kid and get out of my sight right now. Because the moment I use my resources to uncover the truth behind this report, I promise you, Rachel, I will not only destroy your name in New York, I will make sure your entire family experiences absolute living hell for the rest of your days. Facing his devastating threat, Rachel's smug face turns completely pale in an instant. The perfect family reunion is torn apart by a massive corporate conspiracy. On one side is the heartbroken Chloe heading into the storm after total humiliation. On the other side is the malicious woman backing him into a corner with medical proof. Trapped between family pressure, physical evidence, and his own innocence, how will this bleeding man fight back in this massive setup to reclaim his true love? Inside this mansion of betrayal, a brutal storm of revenge is about to explode. Look at this chaos breaking out at the Pierce Group lobby. This woman in a bright red suit is aggressively shouting. She is the vice president and a member of the Pierce family. She is screaming directly at the receptionist and dragging Chloe into it. The woman in red glares and yells fiercely, "Chloe, who do you think you are? I will ruin you today." Chloe stays dead silent, showing pure determination despite the unfairness. Just as the woman in red raises her hand to strike, a powerful shout echoes sharply from the grand staircase. What is all this noise about? Both women turn around instantly to see the CEO Charles Pierce. He walks down fast with a dark look, holding little Ava. Seeing her protector, the woman in red changes her face instantly. She rushes over and grabs Charles's arm with fake tears. "Charles, thank God you are finally here to protect me. This receptionist blocked me, and Chloe actually slapped my face. Grandmother will be furious if she finds out about this. Her health is already failing. What if something happens to her?" She flips the truth completely to blame the innocent victims. But Charles is too smart to fall for her cheap drama. He looks at her coldly, refusing to let her touch his arm. He shoves her away with a voice like absolute ice. "I never gave you permission to work at this company. Grandmother sent you company. Policies are decided by me alone. Apologize to my staff right now. Pack your things and get out." The woman in red stands there completely frozen and embarrassed. Charles ignores her act and looks at Ava with pure love. Ava wraps her arms around his neck and speaks sweetly, "Daddy, I missed you so incredibly much." Charles smiles warmly and kisses her forehead gently. "I missed you too, sweetie. Let's head inside now." Charles takes Chloe's hand gently under the woman's hateful gaze. They walk into the building together as a happy family. The woman in red stomps her heels in absolute fury. Inside the office, Charles flips through papers and speaks softly. "Chloe, there is a major auction in New York tonight. Would you like to come with me this evening?" Chloe sits on the couch, crossing her arms defensively. "I have my own invitation. Why should I go with you?" Little Ava immediately steps in to help her father out. She shakes her mother's hand gently with a cute smile. "Mommy, please let's go together with Daddy tonight." Chloe's cold defense completely melts facing her sweet daughter. She lets out a soft sigh and gives a quiet nod. Charles smiles warmly, his eyes filled with pure joy. He kneels down in front of Ava and strokes her head. "Ava, did something happen at the mansion to upset you?" Ava drops her head, tears welling up in her eyes. She twists her small hands together and whispers sadly, "Tommy bullied me again at the house today, Daddy. Grandmother saw it, but she protected him because he is a boy. I wanted to run back to the Baker family. I was so scared when it happened, Daddy." Charles's heart shatters hearing what his daughter went through. He pulls Ava into a tight hug with deep guilt. "I am so sorry, Ava. Daddy failed to protect you. I swear you will never suffer like that ever again." Ava wipes her tears inside his arms and smiles bravely. "It is okay, Daddy. Please don't be sad anymore. I am not scared now that we are all together." Chloe watches them with a sharp pang of self-and blame. "It is my fault for not taking better care of her." Charles looks up at Chloe with absolute and fierce determination. "This is not your fault, so we are going together. We will get good food, have fun, and reclaim everything." Ava claps her hands happily, her sadness completely gone. "Yay, I get to go with Mommy and Daddy." While the three are happy, the Pierce mansion is dark, the dining table is full, but the matriarch looks furious. Loud crying echoes from the hallway as the doors open. The woman in red drags Tommy and kneels at her feet. She cries dramatically, fabricating a complete web of lies. "Grandmother, you have to help me punish Chloe. She went completely over the line at the office today. I went there on your orders, but she blocked me, then she slapped me hard right across the face." She shows her slightly red cheek to the old woman. The proud matriarch has never tolerated such disrespect before. Plus, she deeply treasures Tommy as her great-grandson. She slams her hand on her wheelchair in pure rage. "Outrageous, does Chloe think I am completely dead? How dare she lay a hand on a Pierce family member? Where is Charles? Is he just letting her run wild?" The woman in red immediately takes advantage of her anger. "Charles is completely blinded by that wicked woman. He kicked me out of the office to please her. Maybe I should just leave with Tommy, so he is happy." Little Tommy starts crying loudly on cue next to her. "Great-grandmother, I want Mommy. I don't want to leave." The matriarch hugs the crying boy with deep affection. "Chloe does not run this house while I am alive. You came back just in time for the New York auction. I am taking both of you with me tonight." The woman in red smirks secretly while acting weak. "Grandmother, why are we going to the auction tonight?" The matriarch gives a cold, ruthless laugh of determination. "I will formally introduce you as the true young mistress, and Tommy will be declared the sole heir to the empire. I will buy you the finest jewelry to show everyone." Night falls as luxury cars line up outside the venue. Top-tier Maybachs and Benzes stop by the red carpet. A powerful older man in a black suit steps out first. He carries a sharp sharp aura of absolute dominance and pride. He is the wealthy father of the woman in red. Next, the woman in red steps out in a sparkling gown. She holds her mother's arm, who wears elegant pearls. The father Zanin-Zanlaw and other elders follow closely behind. Little Tommy walks in a tailored suit with a bodi. The elders meet on the carpet with fake smiles. Tommy's maternal grandfather speaks with a mocking tone. Congratulations, Pierce, your family line is finally secure. Tommy's grandfather smiles awkwardly, hiding his true thoughts. You misunderstand, I am just accompanying the matriarch tonight. The matriarch arrives in a black and gold luxury gown. She walks with a golden cane, looking incredibly powerful. The host rushes over with a highly pleasing smile. Welcome, matriarch. It is an absolute honor to have you. May I ask who these two lovely people are? The matriarch stops and taps her cane on the floor. She announces loudly for the entire crowd to hear, this is Rachel, the future mistress of the family. And this young boy is Tommy, our sole legal heir. The crowd instantly gasps and murmurs in deep shock. Rachel's parents look incredibly proud and triumphant. Her mother kneels down to kiss Tommy repeatedly. My sweet grandson, you are destined for absolute greatness. Everything in the Pierce family will belong to you soon. Charles stands nearby in a perfectly tailored black suit. He watches the drama with a cold, mocking expression. The host looks at Charles with pure envy and admiration. The matriarch truly favors your line. Congratulations. The matriarch raises her chin proudly to the crowd. I am here to buy finest gifts for my grandson's mother. Let's see who dares to outbid the Pierce family tonight. Rachel throws a highly smug, provocative look at Chloe. Chloe and Ava are already seated on the other side. Chloe looks cold and elegant in her white gown. Ava sits quietly next to her in a pink dress. They completely ignore the cheap provocation from the crowd. The host clears his throat. As the auction begins, the stage lights up as a beautiful hostess steps out. Welcome to the prestigious New York luxury auction. Our first piece is a masterpiece by Master Robert, the legendary Heart of the Ocean sapphire necklace. Two assistants carefully push the display case forward. A massive deep blue sapphire shines brilliantly on velvet. It sparkles with breathtaking and stunning light. This represents absolute royalty and eternal, unbroken love. The starting bid for this masterpiece is $50 million. The matriarch's eyes light up, and she orders Charles. Charles, bid on that necklace right now for Rachel. It represents our status and cannot go to anyone else. Charles sits calmly, crossing his hands over his knees. He doesn't even look up as he speaks softly. No rush. Rachel feels incredibly slighted and whispers to Tommy, look how beautiful that sapphire necklace is, Tommy. Your father was supposed to buy that for your mommy. But some people just don't care about greats and grandmother. Bids start flying in fast from across the room. 50 and 5 million. 60 million. 70 million. The price quickly hits a staggering 100 million. We have 100 million. Can I get any higher? The matriarch turns to glare at Charles in pure anger. Charles, what on earth are you waiting for? Are you going to let someone humiliate our family name? Rachel adds fuel to the fire with a dramatic tone. Charles, do it for Tommy and listen to grandmother. If we lose face tonight, we can never show our faces. Charles slowly adjusts his cuffs under the intense pressure. He lets out a cold, mocking laugh and raises his sign. Every single eye in the room locks onto the young CEO. Charles speaks in a steady, powerful voice that echoes, $200 million. The room erupts into absolute chaos at the massive number. $200 million is a mind-blowing amount of money. The hostess shouts with an incredibly excited, shaking voice, $200 million. Going once, twice sold. Congratulations to CEO Charles Pierce for the winning bid. Rachel bursts into a massive triumphant smile at the news. She stands up proudly and mocks Chloe across the room. Chloe, no matter how you try to seduce Charles, I am the only true mistress of the Pierce family. This $200 million necklace belongs to me now. You and your useless daughter can just watch from afar. The matriarch smiles with deep satisfaction and nods. Bring the necklace here and put it on Rachel, Charles. But what happens next slaps them straight in the face. Charles stands up with a cold smile and walks on stage. He takes the Heart of the Ocean from the staff. Instead of walking toward Rachel, he turns around completely. He walks straight past them toward Chloe and Ava. The entire crowd of elites stares in absolute shock. The room turns so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Charles kneels gently before Chloe under the flashing lights. His coldness completely vanishes into pure warmth and devotion. His deep voice echoes clearly through the quiet hall. I have only ever loved one woman in my entire life. This symbol of eternal love belongs to my wife Chloe. He gently places the brilliant sapphire around her neck. The stone sparkles beautifully against her white gown. Ava jumps up from her seat, clapping her hands happily. Wow! Mommy looks like a beautiful angel from heaven. Daddy, you are the absolute best. Chloe touches the sapphire, deeply moved and surprised. Tears glitter in her eyes as she smiles at him. Rachel freezes in her seat, turning completely pale. She shakes with pure rage and screams hysterically. Charles, how dare you give my necklace to that woman? Rachel's father slams the table and stands up furious. What is the meaning of this insult, CEO Pierce? Giving a family treasure to an outsider is pure disrespect. The matriarch shakes with rage, slamming her wheelchair. Charles, you disobedient brat, you defy my direct orders. You humiliate Rachel and our family name for this woman. Are you trying to start a war within this family? Charles stands tall next to Chloe, completely unfazed. He looks at the furious elders without a single hint of fear. The hostess quickly clears her throat to break the tension. Let us move on to our second masterpiece of the night. A historic artifact, the solid gold Chillin lock. A solid gold lock with a beautifully carved Chillin appears. Its ancient golden glow instantly attracts everyone's attention. This lock guarantees a life of absolute peace and success. In the Pierce family, it represents the true legal heir. The starting bid for this treasure is 100 million. Greed flares up instantly in Rachel's eyes once again. She grabs Tommy's hand and whispers excitedly, Tommy, that lock belongs to the rightful heir of the family. With that, nobody can ever steal your inheritance. Tommy yells out loudly, pointing at the golden lock, Mommy, I want that gold lock, buy it for me now. The matriarch looks at the lock with absolute determination. She turns to Charles and commands him fiercely, since you gave away the necklace, this lock is for Tommy. If you have any respect left, buy this for your son. Before she can even finish, Charles cuts her off coldly. He raises his sign and speaks with absolute dominance. I am placing an open and-ended ceiling bid on this item. The entire auction room explodes into massive chaos. Elites stand up in absolute shock at his crazy declaration. A ceiling bid means matching and beating any price blindly. It is an absolute demonstration of limitless financial power. The matriarch leans forward from her wheelchair screaming, Charles, have you completely lost your mind? Are you trying to destroy this family to fight me? Charles looks down at her with calm, absolute authority. As long as I am here, this lock belongs to Ava. I will back my daughter and her mother completely. This symbol of the heir belongs solely to my girl. Nobody else gets a single cent or grain of sand from me. This statement completely strips Tommy of any inheritance claim. It shatters Rachel's dreams into absolute pieces. Rachel's father stands up with a purple furious face. Charles, you have completely lost all respect for elders. Do you forget who put you in the CEO position? Using family money on a girl is an absolute disgrace. Grandmother, look at him. He doesn't respect you at all. If you don't break him, the Pierces will become bakers. Rachel cries at the matriarch's knees, adding manipulation. Grandmother, he stole the necklace and now the lock. He is directly challenging your absolute power in this family. The matriarch breathes heavily, completely blinded by rage. She pulls out her phone and screams at her head butler, freeze every single asset under Charles's name right now. Block his bank accounts, cash flows, and corporate power. Strip him of his CEO title immediately. Do it now. Let's see how you bid without a single cent to your name. Rachel's family smiles with smug, absolute satisfaction. They expect to see Charles dragged out by security, but the butler speaks with a trembling, deeply hesitant voice. Madam, I am so sorry, but I cannot freeze his assets. The matriarch freezes, screaming furiously into the phone. What do you mean you can't? I am the matriarch. The butler lets out a heavy, desperate sigh on speaker. According to the highest corporate bylaws and legal records, Charles Pierce is the sole majority shareholder and true owner. Furthermore, he already legally froze your offshore accounts. Rachel and her father's assets are completely frozen too. The phone slips from her shaking hand, crashing onto the floor. Rachel's fake crying stops instantly as pure terror hits her. Her father's smug smile completely freezes on his face. Charles stands calmly with his hands in his pockets. He looks down at the defeated villains like a ruthless judge. Grandmother, you clearly don't understand the situation. I run the Pierce family. Your orders mean absolutely nothing. Your assets, titles, and positions are fully terminated. That includes you and every single useless elder behind you. Rachel's father shakes with rage, screaming hysterically, this is impossible. You are lying to us. Charles, grandmother is the true power here. You have no right. The matriarch sits paralyzed, a thin line of blood on her lips. She realizes she was completely played by her own greed. She turns her shaking finger toward the terrified Rachel. You wicked woman, you used Tommy to infiltrate my family. You claimed it was for the future of our family line. How dare you lie to me? Explain the paternity test right now. Rachel kneels on the floor sobbing violently in pure silence. An elegant female relative in a stunning gown steps forward. She looks down at Rachel and her father with pure disgust. Chloe was nothing but loving to this family when they married. But when the Pierce family faced a massive financial crisis, you elders ran away like absolute cowards to save yourselves. It was grandmother who rebuilt this empire from scratch. She turns to the matriarch with deep respect and care. And when things got dangerous, who saved your life? Grandmother, it was Chloe and our beautiful little girl Ava. This wicked woman only came back for Charles's billions. She is even using her own child to steal our fortune. Charles adds with a cold, piercing voice of absolute truth. Grandmother, Tommy is not even a Pierce family bloodline. Rachel's secret lover has massive debts overseas. She bribed the hospital doctors to forge the DNA report. She played on your desire for a boy to steal our empire. The brutal truth shatters the villain's remaining defenses. Grandmother, please forgive me just this once. Rachel begs. The matriarch shoves her away violently with her cane. Rachel's father realizes realizes their entire scheme is completely finished. He bows deeply to Charles with absolute humility. Charles, I was blinded by these two wicked children. We will take Tommy and leave New York immediately. Rachel tries to cry to Charles for one last drop of mercy. Charles, forgive me for old time's sake, please, but Charles just looks at her like an absolute dead woman. The matriarch closes her eyes and speaks with icy finality. Security, throw these frauds straight into police custody. Let the judges lock them away for the rest of their lives. Charles, handle the rest. Chloe, Ava, let's go home. The crowd bursts into loud applause as they exit safely. The villains are left ruined, sobbing in absolute despair. A few days later, the scene moves to the sunny garden. The matriarch sits comfortably, holding little Ava gently. Her eyes are red with deep regret and overflowing love. She strokes Ava's bandaged wrist with a trembling hand. My sweet Ava, does it still hurt? I was so foolish. I let those frauds blind me and caused you so much pain. Yet you risked your life to protect an old woman from kidnappers. I am so incredibly sorry for everything, my sweet girl. Tears run down the old woman's wrinkled face. It turns out Rachel had hired thugs to kidnap the matriarch. During the chaos, Tommy had pushed Ava into boiling water. Only the kind butler had secretly treated her burns. Ava wipes great-grandmother's tears with her uninjured hand. She gives a sweet, highly comforting smile to the elder. Don't cry, great-grandmother. It doesn't hurt anymore. I know you are a good person. Those bad people used you. I just want you to be happy, so please don't be sad. Chloe steps forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Ava is right, grandmother. Let's look forward now. Take care of your health. We are a real family now. Charles stands next to Chloe, looking at them with a smile. Grandmother, Ava wants to visit the big amusement park. Let's go together today to clear our minds and have fun. Ava's eyes light up instantly at the mention of the park. Great-grandmother, please come with us to see the carousel. The heavy guilt instantly lifts from the old woman's heart. She hugs Ava tightly with a bright, beautiful laugh. Yes, let's pack the cars and go have fun together. Charles and Chloe look at each other with pure happiness. After all the conspiracies, their family bond is unbreakable. They walk out into the bright sunshine together as one. Let's go home, and then straight to the amusement park. You see this man moving with great difficulty through the pouring rain, and nobody would ever guess his story. His name is Kevin Liu, and he is 65 years old. In an era where sensual is considered the deadline for a career, his age has become an impossible gap to cross. Even though he graduated from an Ivy League university with over Arshami Major Industry Awards, reality is brutal. He is forced to hide his food delivery vest inside his car and adjust his necktie with deep anxiety. He is here at Roth Technologies for a job interview, but the looks he gets are like invisible knives. Next applicant, Kevin Liu. Is Kevin Liu here? Hearing the assistant call his name, he rushes forward saying, yes, I am right here. He enters the interview room with a submissive bow, trying his best to look polite. The interviewer, Matthew Ma, glances at his watch and coldly points toward the empty seat. However, the moment Kevin hands over his resume and states his age, Matthew's indifferent expression changes completely. Hold on a second, you are 65 years old, Matthew asks with pure disgust and disbelief in his voice. The female assistant turns completely pale, quickly checking her tablet and stuttering an apology. I am so sorry, Mr. Ma, I misread his birth year on the application. I am so sorry. Matthew waves his hand dismissively and says, forget it, let's just get this over with. Swallowing his deep humiliation, Kevin uses his professional experience to introduce his core technology project. He takes a blue metal flash drive out of his pocket and carefully places it on the desk. Mr. Ma, this drive contains the core development results from my Arshad-Zanyir career, and I believe before he can even finish his sentence, Matthew slams the resume hard onto the desk and stands up. He explodes in anger at his female assistant, screaming at the top of his lungs, how do you even do your job? Why are you letting an old man like this in for an interview? Then Matthew turns his face toward Kevin, looking down on him with absolute arrogance and supreme contempt. Let me tell you something, old man. You should look in the mirror before coming to an interview here. Stop wasting my time and get the hell out of my sight right now. At that moment, the air in the room turns deathly quiet. Kevin grips his pant legs so hard that his knuckles turn completely white. He does not argue back because a middle-aged man has no leverage in the face of brutal reality. He slowly stands up and bows his spine to these two interviewers who are Archie years younger than him. Thank you for your time, he says quietly, but what happens next is even more infuriating and shocking. The moment Kevin turns around to leave, Matthew picks up the blue flash drive containing his life's work. He throws it directly into the trash can next to him like a piece of worthless garbage. What year do you think it is, still carrying a piece of junk like this around? It is completely outdated. The heavy doors slam shut behind him, and Kevin stands in the hallway gripping his fists tight. His fingernails dig deep into his palms, and his eyes turn completely red with unshed tears. Matthew has absolutely no idea what kind of priceless treasure he just threw into the trash. Shortly after Kevin leaves, the sharp sound of high heels echoes down the hallway. A young woman in a white dress and a silver necklace walks over, surrounded by a large group of people. The screen shows her identity, Victoria Roth, CEO of Roth Technologies, worth tens of billions millions of dollars. How is the interview process going? Victoria asks as she pushes the door open, her voice icy cold. Matthew, who was acting so arrogant just a moment ago, instantly turns into a groveling dog. He rushes forward trembling and hands over the files. Ms. Roth, these are the resumes from today's interviews. Please take a look. Victoria flips through a few pages, her brows furrowing tighter until she slams the folder on the desk. What kind of garbage candidates are these? I asked for a top-tier system architect. Hiring these people is a complete waste of time, she barks, making Matthew break into a cold sweat. Victoria sits back in her chair, rubbing her temples with a heavy sigh. Why is it so incredibly difficult to find a talented engineer these days? As she turns her head, her eyes suddenly lock onto the trash can next to the desk. A blue metal flash drive is lying right on top of the garbage. Driven by her sharp intuition, Victoria reaches out her long elegant hand and picks it up. The moment she plugs the drive into her computer, the data and system architecture models shock her completely. Her cold beautiful face turns from indifference to absolute amazement within 2 short seconds. Victoria jumps straight out of her chair and leans in close to the computer screen. Her breathing turns rapid as she whispers to herself in pure awe. Oh my god, this core algorithm and Sendy architecture are absolutely revolutionary in this industry. Quick, find out who left this drive here immediately. Meanwhile, Kevin has no idea that his life is about to take a massive turn. He sits lost in his car, his mind replaying Matthew's vicious insults over and over again. Am I really too old? Am I completely useless now? But there is nothing wrong with my skills. Real life never stops its fatal pace just because a man is drowning in sorrow. The phone on his dashboard charger suddenly starts vibrating continuously. An official notification from Chase Bank reminds him that his mortgage and car payments are past due. Right after that, a text message from his ex-gen wife, Chloe, pops up. Send me $3,000 right now. It is urgent. Then a notification from his son Tyler appears. Dad, my phone is broken. I want the latest iPhone tomorrow. Looking at these cold demanding messages, Kevin lets out a silent, bitter laugh. This is the brutal reality of a middle-aged man. The pain of unemployment, the crushing weight of bills, and a family that offers zero understanding. These things crush him like a mountain, but he has no time to break down. He silently takes off his suit, puts on his bright food delivery vest, and gets on his electric bike. He rides out into the stormy night, risking his life in the pouring rain just for a few dollars of delivery fees. Late at night, a completely exhausted Kevin finally returns to his house. Standing at the entrance, holding his vest, he tries to give his son a pleasing smile. But what waits for him is a brutal and heartless strike from his own child. Son, come eat, the noodles are still hot. Tell me, how was school today? Kevin asks, smiling timidly, but Tyler looks at him with pure disgust, swinging his hand and smashing the bowl to the floor. The ceramic bowl shatters into pieces, splashing hot soup and noodles everywhere. I don't want your stupid noodles. Tyler stands up and screams hysterically at his father. Instead of scolding her son, Chloe slams her hand on the table and points at Kevin's face. Why are you yelling at my son? Is he wrong? All you do is make cheap noodles with your pathetic money. Kevin drops his head with a weak voice saying, I didn't see your text message earlier. You didn't see it. Are you completely blind? Chloe snaps with venomous words and pure hatred in her eyes. Do you have any idea how embarrassed I was today? I found a luxury bracelet and was short by $300 because you didn't reply or transfer the money. The sales staff looked at me like I was a joke. Tyler loudly complains, using emotional blackmail to blame Kevin for being too cheap to buy him a new phone. He claims he won't be able to hold his head up at his graduation party tomorrow in front of his friends. Chloe points at Kevin's nose and commands, you will buy him the latest iPhone tomorrow. Do you hear me? Looking at the broken pieces on the floor and his ungrateful family, Kevin's heart sinks to the absolute bottom. He says nothing, quietly kneeling down to pick up the sharp ceramic shards with his calloused hands. A sharp piece instantly cuts his finger, and bright red blood drips onto the hardwood floor. Chloe watches this happen, but instead of showing any sympathy, she lets out a cold, disgusted snort. Look at you, you are nothing but a pathetic loser who can't even stand up for himself. Make sure you look presentable for your son's graduation tomorrow. If anyone finds out you are a delivery guy, we will be disgraced for the rest of our lives. Tyler holds his mother's arm, looking down at his kneeling father with absolute contempt. Yeah, Dad, I am your son. Don't tell me you are too cheap to buy me a phone. Look at my friends' dads. None of them are as pathetic as you. The cruelty of his family and the humiliation of society finally explode like a volcano inside Kevin's chest. He stands up violently, slamming the sharp ceramic shards back onto the floor. He lets out a hysterical, deafening roar that echoes through the house. Unless you want to choose an early grave, shut up. The roar of a desperate man carrying his last shred of dignity makes Chloe and Tyler gasp in pure terror. They stand completely frozen in their tracks as Kevin's eyes turn bloodshot, tears streaming down his face. He points at his wife and son, his voice sounding like a broken, dying animal. Is it just about a phone? I gave you a luxurious life for years. I am a human being, not an animal. You two are my family. Why can't you show some empathy? I take endless insults out there just to provide. Do you have any idea how hard it is? After her initial shock, Chloe catches the key piece of information in his words. She narrows her eyes, looking at him with absolute disbelief. Insults out there, aren't you a director at a tech firm? What are you actually doing every day? Kevin snaps completely, ripping his delivery vest out from under the couch cushion and throwing it at her face. Yes, I am delivering food. I lost my job 6 months ago. I hid it because I didn't want you to worry delivering food until midnight while searching for a job. If I didn't work myself to the bone, where do you think the mortgage, car payments, and utilities came from? I wanted to find another tech job, but every company rejects me because of my age. They don't want me. However, hearing the truth about her husband's sacrifice does not bring any comfort or warmth to Chloe. Instead, her expression turns colder than ice within a single second. She raises her chin proudly, speaking with a tone of absolute detachment and heartless cruelty. Fine, I don't care about your excuses. Since you find this life so hard, let's just end it. Let's get a divorce. Get a divorce. Those words hit Kevin's chest like a massive sledgehammer. He stops crying instantly, staring at the woman he shared a bed with for 20 years with absolute terror. He rushes forward, grabbing Chloe's hand tightly with a trembling, begging voice. Chloe, you were just joking with me, right? We can't get a divorce. I am sorry for losing my temper just now. I apologize. We have been together for 20 years. But Chloe shoves his hand away without a single shred of mercy, her disgust completely clear. Who is joking with you? Kevin, look at yourself. I married you because I wanted a rich life. Now you are old, you have no job, no savings, and you deliver food like a loser. You are an embarrassment. I see your step count on my app every day, and I blocked you because it is humiliating. Tyler stands up too, looking at his father with absolute coldness. Exactly. My friends' dads buy them cars and houses, and you can't even afford a phone. Having a delivery guy for a dad makes me a laughingstock at school. Chloe continues her psychological abuse, spitting out the cruelest words possible. Kevin, listen to your own son. You are a complete failure as a husband and a father. If I woke up looking like you, I would honestly just end my life. Looking at these two people who feel no pain for him and are pushing him to die, Kevin's eyes turn completely dead. Despair means absolutely nothing in the face of money and superficial greed. He slowly raises his head, taking one last deep look at Chloe and Tyler. Suddenly, a strange calm washes over him, and a cold smile appears on his face. Fine. Chloe freezes for a moment. Kevin takes a deep breath, his voice completely devoid of any human warmth. Let's get a divorce. See you at court tomorrow. The next day outside the family court, the morning sun is blindingly bright. Kevin walks out of the main gates first, holding the signed divorce agreement in his hand behind him. Chloe and Tyler walk out with arrogant expressions. You left with absolutely nothing. Kevin, that was your choice. We are officially strangers now, Chloe calls out. Even if you starve to death on the streets, don't you dare come back begging us for help. Tyler turns his head away in disgust, refusing to look at his father for even a single second. Kevin does not look back or slow down. He just walks forward into the sunlight with a straight spine. 20 years of being trapped in a toxic marriage are completely over, and he is finally free. Meanwhile, inside the executive office of Roth Technologies, Victoria rubs her temples. She speaks to her mother over the phone with a frustrated sigh. Mom, I told you it is hard to find a chief architect for the new AI system. Stop rushing me. After hanging up, her assistant, Sarah, rushes in and hands over a detailed file. Ms. Roth, we found him. The owner of that blue flash drive is Kevin Liu, 65 years old. Your intuition is incredible. Mr. Liu was a legendary chief engineer who developed multiple hit systems. Unfortunately, he was betrayed by his former partners who stole his patents, and his age made it hard to find work. Victoria flips through Kevin's profile, seeing how he was rejected by various companies just because he is Seshaba. The young billionaire CEO slams the folder onto her desk with deep respect and absolute resolve. History is full of geniuses who achieved greatness later in life. He is only Seshaba at the absolute peak of his skills. Those tech companies rejecting him because of his age are nothing but short-sighted fools. Victoria stands up elegantly, adjusting her black suit dress with complete determination in her eyes. Get the car ready. We are going to meet Mr. Liu right now. We must bring a top-tier talent like him into our company, no matter what it takes. Night falls as the city lights turn on across New York. Kevin, who now has absolutely nothing to his name, sits alone on a cheap red plastic stool at a night market stall. 6 or 7 empty beer cans are scattered across the worn wooden table. An old radio at the stall plays a classic melody. Listening to the music, he remembers his youth when he worked all night in the lab with absolute passion. Now he is unemployed, his family is shattered, and his own son and ex-then wife told him to drop dead. He has no place left to go in this city. The breakdown of a middle-aged man happens in a split second. Kevin's eyes turn red as silent tears stream down his face. He lifts a beer can with a trembling hand, drinking the ice-cold cold alcohol to numb his deep humiliation. While Kevin is trapped in his darkest hour, a black Porsche Panamera slowly pulls up next to the stall. The door opens, and Victoria Roth steps out in a stunning black dress with diamond accents. Ignoring the shocked and amazed stares of the crowd, she walks into the dirty night market stall, carrying premium beer. Under Kevin's completely stunned gaze, Victoria walks to his table and places the beer down. Hello, Mr. La, Victoria says, her clear voice instantly cutting through the noise of the market. Caught completely off guard, Kevin quickly wipes his tears tears and stands up from his plastic stool. Ms. Roth, what on earth are you doing here? He stammers. Victoria smiles warmly and pulls out a plastic stool, sitting right across from him without any arrogance. She looks at the tired but honorable man in front of her with deep respect and sympathy. I know what happened at the office today. It wasn't your fault. They are just fools who can't recognize true genius. Your architecture model is absolutely brilliant, and that is why I came here personally to recruit you. Looking at this billionaire CEO sitting at a dirty night market table just to comfort his broken soul, Kevin drops his head. He sniffs as tears well up in his eyes once again. Thank you, Ms. Roth, but I am 65 years old. Companies reject me, and my own family called me a pathetic failure. Victoria narrows her eyes with protective anger, cracking open a beer and handing it to him with absolute authority. None of that matters to me. Your experience and genius are priceless. Join Roth Technologies as our Chief Technology Officer with $1 million salary and prime stock options. At that cheap plastic table, the billionaire CEO and the broken man drink beer and talk about their dreams. Loud genuine laughter echoes from the stall as Victoria completely clears the darkness from Kevin's mind. After a few drinks, Kevin looks at the beautiful young woman who understands him so deeply. Thank you, Victoria. Tonight I felt like I couldn't go on, but things are much better now. Victoria leans back against her plastic chair with a slight flush on her cheeks. She reaches out her elegant hand, wearing a white jade bracelet, and gently places it over Kevin's calloused hand. Kevin shudders slightly but does not pull away, feeling the genuine warmth of her touch. Don't mention it. We are partners now. Besides, you kept me company tonight, and life is rarely perfect anyway. The night breeze blows past, and empty cans pile up on the table. Kevin feels the alcohol hitting him and waves his hand with an unsteady smile. No more for me, Ms. Roth, or I am going to get completely drunk. Let's call it a night, he says, trying to stand up, but due to the alcohol, his body sways violently, and he loses his balance completely. Victoria quickly reaches out to catch him, but in the clumsy rush, Kevin knocks them both onto a small cot nearby. Victoria ends up lying completely inside Kevin's strong embrace. Under the dim yellow lights of the night market, their bodies are pressed tightly against each other without any space. Kevin's large hand instinctively wraps around Victoria's slender waist, and her beautiful face is just inches from his. Her warm alcohols and scented breath hits his face clearly. The noise of the surrounding market completely fades away, leaving only the sound of their synchronized breathing. The destined bond between the billionaire CEO and the middle-aged man is officially ignited. Meanwhile, in the shadows across the street, Chloe and Tyler are standing together watching the scene. Mom, I confirmed it. My godfather, David Joe, is actually my real biological father. He had to flee the country years ago due to some bad business, which is why he used Kevin to get me legal status. Now he is back in New York with millions, and we are moving into high society. That loser Kevin deserves to be dumped. Chloe rolls her eyes and laughs coldly. I knew it all along, which is why I divorced him so fast. Our life is going to be amazing from now on. That broke loser Kevin is destined to deliver food for the rest of his life. However, as their eyes drift back to the market stall, they freeze completely. The man they threw out like trash is currently holding Victoria Roth, the richest bachelorette in the city, on a bed. Chloe and Tyler's eyes pop out of their heads, their smug smiles completely vanishing as their bodies shake in terror. Victoria Roth, the chairman of Roth Technologies. How is this even possible? Tyler stammers, turning pale. On the first day of his son's success, he actually forced his own father to kneel in public. The young and arrogant Tyler stood there in a sharp suit, looking incredibly smug and proud. He turned to a middle-aged man and shouted with deep flattery, "Hey there, godfather." Following his gaze, a wealthy man named David stood there, holding a flashy, dramatic woman named Chloe. David laughed out loud, slapping Tyler on the shoulder and shouting proudly to the entire crowded room, "Today is my godson's very first day on the job here at this great institution. As his godfather, I am obviously here to support him and show everyone who he has backing him." But right in the middle of this celebration, the scene took a sudden, dark, and violent turn. Several security guards in uniform suddenly grabbed a middle-aged man wearing a beige luxury blazer. This man was none other than Tyler's actual biological father, a brilliant engineer named Kevin. Kevin had his arms twisted brutally behind his back as the guards forced him down to the floor. His knees slammed hard against the freezing marble tiles, causing him to groan out in sudden pain. As his biological son, Tyler did not move a single finger to help his own father stand up. Instead, he walked over with an icy, heartless expression and pointed his finger directly at Kevin's face. "Do you see this? This right here is the true difference between successful people and losers. My godfather is a core business partner of the Roth Group. But what about a failure like you? You are just a delivery guy who stole a batch to sneak inside. You cannot be my father." Kevin held back the agonizing pain in his knees, his eyes filled with absolute heartbreak and pure despair. He looked at the boy he had sacrificed everything to raise, his voice shaking, but filled with strength. A bad son is the fault of a father who failed to teach him values properly. I spent too much time earning money and ignored your education, turning you into a heartless monster. You are completely shameless, bowing down to a common criminal and calling him your godfather. But Tyler felt absolutely no shame at all, reacting like a feral animal being backed into a corner. He began to scream hysterically at the top of his lungs, his face turning completely red with rage. The old man is still talking back. You are a useless failure. Stop pretending you have authority over me. David joined in from the side, laughing coldly while blowing thick smoke rings into the clean air. Just pushing him down isn't enough. Kid, you need to teach this old man a real lesson. Otherwise, he will keep stealing things around this office and you might lose your precious new job. To make a great impression on his rich godfather, Tyler's eyes turned incredibly cruel and sharp. He pointed straight at Kevin's head and looked back at David, asking for his ultimate opinion. Godfather, what do you think we should do to handle a loser like this permanently? David smiled coldly and pulled Chloe closer to his side, letting out a sharp mocking laugh. Make him kneel down and apologize to you right now in front of everyone here, and make him promise to never look for you or your mother ever again. Simple as that. Hearing those words, Kevin shook with absolute fury, staring straight into David's criminal eyes. You want me to kneel down and beg my own biological son for forgiveness? You will burn in hell. Seeing this, Tyler rushed forward and grabbed Kevin tightly by his collar, screaming like a lunatic. How dare you speak to my godfather like that? Kneel down before him. Kneel down right now. The security guards increased their pressure, forcing Kevin's body down against the hard floor. Kevin fought back with all his strength, but his bones popped under the overwhelming force. He screamed out in pure agony, "Get off me, Tyler, you have completely lost your mind." Right at the absolute climax of this public humiliation, the elevator doors nearby slid open. A cold and powerful female CEO named Victoria stepped out, wearing a sharp tailored black suit, surrounded by her personal secretary and top executives. She walked forward with an expression of pure ice. She looked at the chaotic mess in the lobby with deep disgust, walking quickly in her high heels. Victoria's sudden appearance made Tyler and David change their expressions into polite smiles instantly. The vice president running the lobby ran over to her like a dog, trying to take credit. "Welcome, Chairman. I just caught a thief who had the audacity to steal your personal security badge. He was even claiming to be the chief engineer of our tech group, but I caught him." David quickly stepped forward, putting on a massive fake smile to support the vice president's claim. "That is absolutely true, Ms. Roth. We can all testify against this old criminal right here. He was using your badge to show off. A loser like this must be punished severely for our reputation." Tyler's mother, Chloe, rolled her eyes dramatically and added more fuel to the fire. "Ms. Roth, I know this old man better than anyone. He failed his interview here before. He must be doing this out of pure revenge, though I didn't know he had this much energy." Tyler acted like a groveling pet in front of Victoria, pointing at Kevin on the floor. "Chairman, he is just a pathetic food delivery guy. Please do not let his lies trick you." At this exact moment, these fools honestly believed they were experiencing the greatest moment of their lives. They completely failed to notice that Victoria's face had turned entirely dark with absolute fury. While David and the others waited to see Kevin thrown out into the streets by security, Victoria spoke. Her voice was incredibly cold, cutting through the silence of the crowded lobby like a knife. "Oh, it turns out I made a mistake, and you people have absolutely nothing to do with him. Fine. Since that is the case, all business partnerships with David are permanently cancelled starting today." Those words hit the lobby like a massive lightning strike, shocking everyone into absolute silence. David's fake smile froze instantly on his face, his eyes rolling back in pure shock and horror. "What, Ms. Roth? Please tell me you are joking. You cannot cancel our contracts like this." Chloe also turned pale with sudden terror, screaming out with a desperate voice, "Ms. Roth, you must have the wrong person. Tyler is an incredibly talented young man. Even though he lived with that useless old man for a bit, he is pure and perfect for your firm." Victoria did not even bother to look at them, turning her back with absolute indifference. David's legs gave out completely, and he fell straight to his knees on the floor before her. All of his previous arrogance disappeared instantly as he began to slap his own face repeatedly. "I beg for your mercy. Please give me one more chance. All my money is tied up in this deal. If this partnership is cancelled, I will go completely bankrupt and lose everything I own." However, an even bigger and more shocking twist was about to happen right before their eyes. Victoria completely ignored David on the floor, walking slowly over to Kevin instead. She reached out her elegant hands and personally helped Kevin stand up from the marble floor. She gently brushed the dust off his suit jacket with an incredibly soft and tender touch. Then she turned around, her sharp and piercing gaze scanning the shocked faces of the crowd. She announced each word with absolute power and authority, her voice echoing through the building. "You say I have the wrong person. It is your own eyes that are completely blind. Kevin has won countless major industry awards since his university days, leading this entire tech sector. He has personally developed dozens of critical tech patents that drive our modern world forward. His brilliant mind alone is worth more than 10 publicly traded corporations combined. He is the chief engineer of the Roth Group, and I personally recruited him back to lead us. Hearing the words chief engineer, Tyler and Chloe's minds went completely blank with shock. Chloe collapsed onto the floor, her lips shaking violently as she stared at her ex-Dan husband. Kevin, how could you possibly possess this kind of immense power and status? Tyler, who had just been humiliating his father, fell to his knees without any dignity. He crawled forward and grabbed Kevin's leg, crying hysterically like a pathetic child. Dad, you are my real father. I was just confused and foolish a moment ago. Please forgive me. We have over 20 years of father and son bond. We cannot just throw that away over a mistake. I promise to be a good son from now on. Tell mom to marry you again so we can be a family. Looking at this disgusting child who would throw away his dignity for money, Kevin felt only pure hatred. He kicked Tyler away with absolute coldness, his voice sounding like a freezing winter wind. I told you before, never call me your father again. I am completely done with you. As for the tech project, I will handle it for Victoria. Get out of my sight right now. Just as Chloe and Tyler tried to move forward to beg and cause another scene, Victoria laughed. She slowly reached into the inside pocket of her tailored suit jacket and pulled out a document. It was a bright red fresh marriage certificate, which she opened up proudly for everyone to see. On the paper, the names Kevin Liu and Victoria Roth were written clearly next to a happy photo. Victoria wrapped her arm tightly around Kevin's, looking at the crowd with immense pride. This incredible man belongs to me now. Get these blind, pathetic parasites out of my building. But the business world is a brutal battlefield, and another massive storm was already arriving. Just as the crowd was celebrating this incredible twist, a loud mocking laugh came from the entrance. The young heir of the Universe Group, Ethan Wang, walked in with absolute arrogance and power. Accompanied by several large bodyguards and the vice president who had just resigned, he stepped forward. Ethan looked Kevin up and down with absolute contempt, letting out a sharp mocking laugh. Well, look who it is. If it isn't Kevin, the useless engineer I fired 2 months ago. I kicked you out because you were too old and slow, and now you are a chief engineer here. I guess you learned how to survive by relying on a rich woman. This is truly hilarious. Hearing this, David and the former vice president felt like they had found a powerful savior. They immediately ran over to Ethan like loyal dogs, trying to gain his favor. The vice president smiled flatteringly and said, Mr. Wang, you arrived at the perfect moment. This failure is pretending to be a chief engineer, but he was a complete coward at our firm. Now he actually has the audacity to challenge the massive power of the Universe Group. David climbed up from the floor, wiping the dust off his pants and speaking with deep hatred. You are exactly right, Mr. Wang. This marriage is just a foolish mistake by Chairman Roth. She is throwing away her family's entire tech empire by marrying this useless old man. With one word from the Universe Group, you can block all their tech patents and ruin them in a day. Faced with Ethan's direct provocation and the betrayal of her former staff, the air turned freezing cold. The remaining employees of the Roth Group began to whisper among themselves with deep fear. As the top tech giant in the region, the Universe Group controlled almost all core industry patents. If they truly launched a massive tech blockade, the Roth Group would face instant destruction. Ethan walked up to Victoria with an incredibly arrogant smile, tapping his finger on her desk. Miss Roth, I gave you fair warning, but you insisted on forcing my hand, didn't you? The core patents for your artificial intelligence project are entirely in our hands. If I launch a complete blockade, your skills won't matter at all because you cannot use them. Stop embarrassing yourself, divorce this old man right now, and I might spare your company. Otherwise, you can watch your entire empire fall to pieces while you kneel and beg for mercy. Despite the massive threat from Ethan, Kevin remained completely calm from start to finish. A faint, mysterious smile even appeared on the corners of his mouth as he stood there. Ted gently patted Victoria's anxious hand to reassure her, then stepped forward to face Ethan. Kevin's gaze was deep and incredibly sharp, looking right through Ethan's arrogant mask. Mr. Ethan Wang, you keep claiming your company owns the core patents to our AI project, but let me ask you a very simple question. Have you ever actually understood those patents? Ethan froze for a brief second, then fired back with a defensive and nervous tone. Of course I understand them. Our elite R&D team spent millions developing that AI tech. It leads the entire global market, and without our license, you cannot even build a voice assistant. Kevin could not help but shake his head after hearing this, letting out a soft laugh. He turned around and walked over to the front desk computer, speaking calmly to the secretary. Please let me use your computer for a quick moment. Under the watchful eyes of hundreds of people in the room, Kevin's long fingers flew across the keyboard. His movements were incredibly smooth and lightning and fast, leaving everyone completely dazed. In less than 30 seconds, the massive hologram holographic projector in the lobby buzzed back to life. A brilliant blue light shot up into the air, shifting and evolving before the crowd. Then a flawless, highly detailed CNC digital human model appeared, operating perfectly in mid-an air. The level of detail and processing speed was dozens of times faster than Ethan's version. This is impossible. This cannot be happening. Ethan screamed, turning completely pale. He rushed toward the control console in pure panic, screaming hysterically at the screen. I personally blocked all of your patent access rights, using my supreme administrative authority. Without our license, how did you build a perfect AI assistant? You stole our tech. Faced with the screaming, frantic man, Kevin simply adjusted his suit cuffs with absolute elegance. He looked directly into Ethan's terrified eyes and spoke with absolute calm. Mr. Wang, do you remember what I told you when I resigned from your firm 2 months ago? Those core patents you cherish and use to threaten the tech world are just junk I designed 10 years ago. 10 of those patents are completely obsolete today because of fundamental flaws in their logic. If you weren't so arrogant and lazy, spending all your office hours playing video games, you would know. Kevin pointed proudly at the perfect digital human model spinning in the air. The new AI technology I developed independently for the Roth Group uses a completely different architecture. It completely avoids all old patent restrictions and leads the entire industry by 8 years. In the face of this massive technological gap, your little blockade is just a pathetic joke. The truth was out, and the entire situation turned around instantly, crushing Ethan's pride. The former vice president and executives who had betrayed Kevin now regretted their choices deeply. In the face of true genius, they finally realized what kind of legendary master they had lost. The vice president's face twisted in shame, and he suddenly turned around and slapped Ethan hard. Go to hell, Ethan, you are completely incompetent, and we won't let a loser like you ruin this industry. The lobby erupted into massive cheers as the remaining Universe Group staff switched sides on the spot. They bowed deeply to Victoria and Kevin, shouting with deep respect and panic, Chairman, Chief Engineer, we were wrong. Please give us one more chance to work for you. Ethan looked at his empty back as everyone abandoned him, collapsing onto the floor in total ruin. Victoria's mother Helen, who used to look down on Kevin, now smiled with deep pride. Chief Engineer, your skill is truly legendary. Victoria, you found an incredible husband. Amidst the thunderous applause, Victoria hugged Kevin tightly with tears of pure happiness in her eyes. Kevin held his new wife close to his side, standing tall under the admiration of the crowd. True strength never requires loud, arrogant boasting to prove its worth to the world. With his bare hands and brilliant mind, he crushed all humiliation and blockaded restrictions completely. He ensured that Roth Technologies would stand proudly at the absolute peak of the global tech industry. Inside the conference room, the atmosphere was as heavy as lead pressing on everyone's chest. Several board members sat with icy faces, uniting to remove Victoria from her position as chairman. Their excuse was simple: poor management and offending their largest client, the Universe Group. They called Victoria a criminal to the firm and demanded Kevin be thrown out as a useless parasite. Victoria fought back with all her strength against these snakes, trying to save her family's honor, but the logic of capital is cold, and their combined shares already exceeded her own. At that moment, Victoria felt a deep freezing chill from the betrayal of her closest partners. The board members gave her a final ultimatum. Tomorrow's Tech Expo was her very last chance. If she could not present a breakthrough that the Universe Group could not ignore, she had to resign. At the Tech Expo, flashbulbs blinded the eyes of the crowd as greed filled the air. Ethan walked in arrogantly with his mother and a woman in a green dress. They showed absolute contempt for everyone, especially Ethan's mother, who insulted Kevin openly. Her words targeted his professional dignity and trampled on his character as a human being. Ethan stood by with a victorious smile, believing the bet was already won. Victoria held Kevin's arm tightly, showing her complete trust in him. During this massive storm, the contract was signed, and if they lost today, the Roth Group would be completely erased. In the presentation area, the Universe Group's AI assistant looked incredibly bright and advanced. Under its sleek exterior, it seemed to possess the most sophisticated artificial intelligence. It could learn independently and simulate human logic perfectly, instantly winning over the crowd. The loud cheers of the audience were the ultimate reward for Ethan's pride. He walked over and whispered cruel mocking words directly into Victoria's ear to break her spirit. Victoria felt an overwhelming amount of pressure as the entire room seemed to laugh at her. However, the script did not play out the way they expected at all. Kevin walked slowly onto the presentation stage with steady steps and absolute calm in his eyes. Ethan watched from the back, waiting to see Kevin humiliate himself in front of the world. But Kevin's actions were incredibly precise as his fingers tapped a rhythm on the keyboard. In the sudden silence of the room, Kevin revealed his ultimate hidden trump card. The AI assistant that Ethan was so proud of suddenly stopped all of its logical calculations. Then, under the shocked stares of the tech industry leaders, the robot knelt down before Kevin. A clear electronic voice echoed through the speakers, "Greetings, Master." Those words hit the convention center like an absolute thunderbolt, freezing everyone's expressions. Ethan lost his mind in pure panic, trying to block the news and launch a total industry boycott. But this was no longer an equal competition. It was a final judgment of his ignorance. The arrival of Elder Zhao pushed the entire drama to its absolute final conclusion. illusion. As a legendary figure who controlled the tech world, he brought billions of dollars in new funding. This massive capital crushed all of Ethan's desperate, pathetic schemes instantly. Elder Zhao's wise eyes looked right through the ugly actions of Ethan and his mother. His final words, "No talent, no virtue. You brought this ruin upon yourself," finished the Wang family. In the final reckoning, the true ugly nature of the Wang family was exposed to the public. The corrupt board members and tech investors who had mocked Victoria lowered their heads in shame. Kevin stood on the stage, looking at the ruined Ethan being dragged away by security without any pity. He knew that the era of arrogance and greed had officially come to an end tonight. Victoria and Kevin looked at each other and smiled warmly amidst the crowded room. They had won back their company, their shares, and the absolute dignity of true creators. The Wang family became a pathetic joke for everyone to laugh at for years to come. Their former wealth and pride turned to dust, leaving a permanent lesson in this corporate war. The Grand Industry Tech Summit erupted into complete chaos the exact moment things kicked off today. A woman in a long green dress, who happened to be Kevin's ex-wife, was pointing her finger and screaming at him. Kevin stood there calmly in a sharp pinstripe suit, his expression completely unreadable and steady. The woman hissed through her teeth, shouting, "Kevin, you absolutely heartless and ungrateful man. I spent over 20 long years of my life by your side, supporting you through everything. And now, just to save your own pathetic pride, you are standing here telling everyone we are done. How can you possibly be this cruel and cold-hearted?" The surrounding crowd immediately began whispering and pointing their fingers in judgment. But Kevin didn't say a single word, his eyes reflecting nothing but mockery and deep indifference. Right then, Kevin's daughter stepped forward in a white coat, crossing her arms to defend her mother blindly. "She is exactly right. My mother just made a simple mistake that anyone could make. It's not like she abandoned this family forever. She always came back home to you. She took care of you and raised your kids for years, so how can you be this incredibly heartless? Besides, so what if she had another son? Even if he isn't biologically yours, can't you just be a man? Can't you show some real generosity instead of holding a grudge? You are being completely old-fashioned." Hearing these people justify total betrayal so righteously, Victoria let out a cold laugh from a short distance away. She calmly raised her phone, and the massive display screens across the hall suddenly flashed to life. The video clearly showed the illegitimate son and a gang of thugs brutally throwing Kevin to the ground and kicking him. It was an incredibly humiliating and abusive scene for anyone to witness. Faced with this undeniable video evidence, the entire venue erupted into a wave of shocking murmurs. Yet Kevin's ex-wife and her powerful backers, the Smith family, showed absolutely no remorse or regret. Instead, they used their massive leverage to threaten everyone, swearing to erase Roth Technologies from New York completely. At that exact moment, the ex-wife and her corrupt partners fully revealed their greedy and ugly true nature. They didn't feel a single shred of shame for their betrayal and actions against the family. Backed by the immense political and financial power of the Smith family, they grew even more arrogant and aggressive. The woman stood tall, her eyes filled with a vicious and cruel sense of satisfaction. She scanned the room of terrified tech executives, as if declaring her absolute control over the industry. Her overbearing attitude dropped the room's temperature to freezing, creating an incredibly suffocating pressure. Through all of it, Kevin remained perfectly silent, his deep eyes watching them like cheap actors in a bad play. His absolute composure stood in stark contrast to the growing panic of the crowd around him. This quiet confidence was clearly the deceptive calm before a massive destructive storm. Standing firmly right beside Kevin, Victoria kept her back perfectly straight despite the heavy threats from the Smith family. She refused to be intimidated by their aggressive words and legal warnings. Instead, she made it known to everyone watching that as long as she was around, Roth Technologies would never fall. This was no longer just a private family drama, it had evolved into a high-stakes corporate war of power and dignity. Kevin's silence wasn't a sign of weakness, he was simply waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. He knew their greed would push them too far, and the real reckoning was just getting started. Later, at the Roth Technologies quarterly corporate review, Victoria's younger brother attempted a hostile takeover. He aligned himself with corrupt board members to remove her from her position as chief executive. The brother proudly announced a massive $200 billion investment from the Smith family, but Victoria remained completely unfazed. When her brother mocked Kevin as a useless old man and demanded his resignation, Kevin stepped up with real dignity. He gently reassured Victoria, took her hand, and walked right out of the boardroom with her. They chose to stand together and face the consequences as a united front. Inside the boardroom, the air was thick with smoke, and the tension was heavy enough to crush anyone. Victoria's brother sat arrogantly in the chairman's seat with his legs crossed, looking down at his sister with a smug smile. He believed he held all the cards, treating the $200 billion backing as a weapon to destroy her power. The board members kept their heads down, unable to look Victoria in the eye after their betrayal. They had eagerly traded the person who built their success for a quick financial payout. Kevin looked at the chaotic scene around him with absolute inner peace. He whispered a few quiet words to Victoria, instantly calming her anxious heart. As they stood up and walked out of the room, their steps were firm and filled with pride. They didn't look like defeated executives, they looked like two warriors who fully trusted each other. The brother laughed mockingly at their departure, completely unaware that he had just triggered ushered the downfall of the Smith Empire. After escaping the toxic boardroom meeting, Kevin led Victoria out into the quiet corporate gardens. They found a secluded spot to quietly review their information and plan their next moves. By now, Victoria had completely regained her composure, her eyes filled with absolute trust in Kevin. She knew that no matter how bad things got, this man would protect her from the storm. Kevin gently touched her forehead, his tender gesture a stark contrast to the corporate warfare surrounding them. In the distance, the shadow of the family estate seemed to grow darker and more ominous. Kevin could feel the deep, long-standing malice targeted at them growing rapidly. But he chose not to worry Victoria with the details because he had already prepared for this exact day. Kevin was no longer the quiet, passive engineer who suffered in silence. Without anyone noticing, he had built an unbreakable wall of defense to protect the woman he loved. He understood perfectly that once this final battle began, there would be no turning back. His only priority was making sure Victoria was completely safe behind him when the storm hit. This was their ground, and they were ready to defend their dignity at any cost. The scene shifted outside the luxury estate, where Kevin was brutally pinned to the ground by a group of private security guards. The family matriarch and Kevin's ex-wife walked out with cold smiles on their faces. They threw down a divorce settlement and a fraudulent termination notice, forcing him to sign away his rights permanently. The old matriarch looked down at Kevin in the dirt while elegantly sipping her tea, treating him like an insect. The ex-wife stood right beside her, her face twisted with pure hatred and a desire to ruin him completely. She stepped closer and pressed the heel of her expensive designer shoe onto Kevin's shoulder. Kevin, don't say I never gave you a choice to walk away from this family with dignity. Sign these papers right now and take the money, or this yard will become your final resting place. Kevin's face was pressed hard against the freezing ground, but he kept his eyes shut tight and refused to beg. Victoria was held back by the guards, feeling physically sick as she watched the man she loved suffer. Her tears soaked through her clothes as she saw him forced into such a desperate position. The document wasn't a standard agreement, it was an insult designed to strip away his human dignity. Despite the intense pressure from the old matriarch, Kevin refused to break or give up. His hands were bound tightly behind his back by the guards, his skin bruising from the force, but he showed no pain. The matriarch sneered at his defiance and whispered a cruel instruction to the ex-wife standing nearby. Understanding the order instantly, the woman picked up a heavy pen and stabbed it hard into the back of Kevin's hand. The sharp point tore through his skin, and blood quickly stained his white shirt sleeve. Yet Kevin kept his composure, a dangerous burning fire igniting deep within his eyes. He wasn't just fighting for his own pride anymore, he was fighting for Victoria and the future they built. Right then, the old matriarch's phone rang, and her arrogant expression vanished instantly. She listened to the voice on the line, trembling so hard that she dropped the phone onto the ground in absolute terror. It turned out their entire $200 billion fund had vanished under the direct orders of a legendary figure named Charles. Every single asset tied to the Smith family was frozen instantly, plunging the entire estate into bankruptcy. Inside the grand hall, the old matriarch sat paralyzed on the expensive rug, staring blankly at her phone. The ex-wife and the younger brother stood frozen, having no idea what had just destroyed their lives. They assumed it was a minor issue until the news of total financial ruin spread like a virus through the room. Kevin stood up slowly and walked into the center of the hall, looking down at his former captors. The people who had just been torturing him were now scattered across the floor like regular garbage. He didn't laugh or shout at them. He simply walked over to Victoria and gently fixed her hair. The air in the room felt completely frozen as a massive wave of power from the very top of the financial world arrived. The crumbling house of cards that the family relied on was completely destroyed in a single second. Just then the heavy double doors were pushed open respectfully by two massive security guards. Charles walked into the room wearing a traditional, high-end tailored suit, surrounded by dozens of personal agents. With every single step he took, the floor seemed to vibrate with his immense authority. He looked at the ruined family, and with a single cold glance, he sent the matriarch to her knees in absolute terror. Charles walked directly over to Kevin and personally helped him stand up with deep respect. Then he turned around to face the crowded room, his powerful voice revealing Kevin's true identity. Kevin is the only true successor I have ever chosen to inherit my global tech empire. He possesses backing and power that none of you could ever dream of touching. Anyone who dared to insult or harm him will now pay for it 1,000 times over. With the loud screech of luxury car brakes outside, Victoria's father arrived at the scene as well. This massive series of reveals left everyone who had looked down on Kevin in a state of absolute despair. The only thing waiting for the corrupt executives and family members was complete legal and financial ruin. Kevin and Victoria pulled each other into a tight emotional embrace, completely ignoring the chaos around them. At this moment, they stood at the absolute peak of New York's elite, ready to start a beautiful new chapter together. The war was over, and justice had been served completely. This wasn't just a simple story of revenge, it was a testament to keeping your integrity through the darkest times. On this unforgettable night, every single person finally got the exact ending they truly deserved.